You are the wife of John McAfee.
Yes.
And I just recently listened to you tell your story on Matt Cox's podcast, which was fantastic.
Thank
so
you.
I thought I have to get you in here to tell this because you have like the most intimate details of his life from the point when you met him when he got back from, I think, Guatemala, right?
Yes.
But like to start this thing off, maybe we should talk about what happened with his death and where did he die? Where was he? And like, what was the outcome of the investigation that happened with that?
Okay. So we were in Spain. We had been there for a few months, and John was going to be leaving to go to Turkey to meet some friends. And so he was flying out of the Barcelona airport when he was arrested, and he was taken to the Brians One penitentiary in Barcelona, just outside of Barcelona. So he had been there from early October, I think it was October 4th when he was arrested, until he died, which was June 23rd, 2021. So he'd been there the entire time. So I'm sorry, October 4th, 2020, until June of 2021. And that's where he was when he died. I spoke to him the day that he died. I spoke to him every day once he was processed and in the system, in the prison. I spoke to him every day, 3 times a day. The phone calls were 8 minutes a piece, so really short. But
was this in Belize?
no, this was in Barcelona.
Barcelona, okay.
Spain. Yeah. And so, I didn't know John when he was in Belize.
Okay.
Yeah, I met him after.
Okay.
Yeah, that was pre my time. So. But he was doing well, ish. It's prison, so I mean, how well can you be doing?
I heard prison in Spain's not that bad.
I don't think it was, but I don't think that he was necessarily giving me the truth about what he was maybe experiencing. I know he lost a lot of weight. His attorney was concerned about his appearance because he didn't look well. But I will say, before he went to prison, he was a little overweight. John is a very slender guy, and he had gained a lot of weight. We did a lot of drinking. So, so he gained a lot of weight. So I think he was just getting back down to his natural state of being, which is slim. So, but he was fine, as far as I could tell over the phone. He didn't sound stressed or obviously tired, But the day of, he went to court because they were going to give a ruling on whether or not he was going to be extradited back to America. And so which
he didn't want, right?
Right, of course. No, he didn't want to be extradited back. But we had a team of attorneys, 2 Spanish attorneys, 2 American attorneys, because there was 2 cases brought against him. First, it was initially the tax fraud. And then the SEC added some other charges later once he was arrested and in custody. So we had 2 separate attorneys working on that. And then we also had a British attorney who was working on that angle because John had dual citizenship. So we understood that they were probably going to grant the extradition. And so this was not a surprise. It didn't catch John by surprise. So because I've heard a lot of people comment on him rage quitting. And that wasn't. If you knew John, you just would know that wasn't him.
Like killing himself?
Yeah.
Okay.
This just wasn't what he would do, right? He was a fighter till the end, and I believe that he definitely fought. However it was that they were able to get him in that position that he was in, I believe that he fought, which is why maybe they wouldn't allow me to see his body as I was requesting.
So the day that he died, it was decided that he would be extradited.
Right. But there was going to be appeals, right? There's an appeals process. So he wasn't going to be extradited that same day.
It was going to be what,
week,
months?
Year, or month. It was going to be a long time. And so everyone understood that. So I spoke to him early in the morning before he went to court. After he came from court, he was disappointed, but again, it wasn't to be expected, or we expected the outcome anyways. And so the last thing he said to me on that conversation, our last conversation, was that I love you and I'll call you later. And so Fast forward a few hours, I think it was about 4 or 5 p.m. Spain time, when someone sent me a DM, and I got a notification of the DM, and it said, OMG, tell me this isn't true, in all capital letters. And so I don't know why, I just immediately thought of John, and I went to Google, and that's how I found out that John was dead. And things after that are a little blurry, but I was able to go to the prison within that same week to collect his belongings. I spoke with the head of the guards. I guess he was like the boss, or the anyways, the boss of all the guards, over all the guards, and he just spoke very highly of John, and he was an exemplary a prisoner. You know, he didn't cause any trouble, and he was always smiling and always engaging with everyone. And so they were very surprised, very shocked at what happened to him. You know, it was just unbelievable to them, because especially that gentleman, he said he had spoken to John after he had come from court. So there was no evidence or that he was thinking about harming himself, you know. And so for things to have ended that way, they were very shocking to the people in the prison. And after that, I think by the end of the week, I was able to go to their morgue and identify John. So I was in a room, and there was a glass window, and John, they rolled his body in on the other side, but all I was able to see was, you know, from his head up. They had everything else covered because they said they were in the middle of the autopsy. And so I wasn't able to see the tattoos or anything, you know, the markers that would have told me for sure that was him, or even just to see if there was bruises on his body, you know.
What?
Yes.
How specifically did he die? Like, what was his method?
Shoestrings. In the pictures from the cell, there were shoestrings, a lot of shoestrings around his neck. It was, you know, kind of this thick around his neck. So there was a lot of shoestrings, but you could see from the picture that it was shoestrings. And so
wasn't there something fishy with like the way they dealt with him when they found him?
So let me get to that. I'm sorry. I will get into that. So the prison opened an investigation into John's death immediately after, which was strange because they were the ones that released that he had killed himself by suicide, right? That they, and so in their report, John actually wasn't dead when they found him. He was alive. His breathing was shallow, and his pulse was faint, but he was still, you know, breathing. He was still alive, yeah. And so in the security footage, they send in a medical response team, and they come and they bring John's body out and lay him in the hall, and they put the thing over his mouth, and they're pumping air, and they're doing chest compressions for, you know, over 10 minutes. They're doing this before they call it, and then they put his body back into the cell, and they take the picture. So anyways, from the report, it's reported that John he had the shoestrings around his neck, but there was something that was connecting him to the window. So that's how he was found. He was found hanging from the window in his cell, which is not a high window, right? And
so like it wouldn't have been tall enough.
No, not at all. And the guard actually made it a point to let me know that his feet were on the floor when they found him, which was interesting to me because it made me think of, not that John is similar to Jeffrey Epstein, but it made me think of that because I believe that's what it was reported about him as well. Yeah. You know, that how would he have, you know, he was a very tall man, and so how would he have,
right.
And so, yeah, so his feet were on the floor, and whatever it was he was attached to the window with, they burned it off to bring him down. So that evidence was destroyed. And also in the pictures in the investigation report, you still see the shoestrings tied around his neck. Now, I don't think that they cut it off and then laid it back on his, you know, for just the picture purposes. So that means that they were then, you know, doing these chest compressions and giving him oxygen with this, shoestring noose around his neck.
Was it still super tight or was it loose?
It had to have been, because what?
If they took it off the window though, maybe it.
Well, like I said, there was something attached to what was around his neck and around the, at the window. So I don't know if that was something separate from what he, or if that would have loosened what was around his neck in any way. But still, why would you not remove what's around his neck before trying to save his life, right? Because it seems that would defeat the purpose, of whatever you're trying to do. Because I'm not sure why they would have went in with oxygen and chest compressions anyways when he had a heartbeat and he was breathing. So I'm not sure what should have been done in that instance, but I don't know that would have been the right protocol.
So he had a pulse.
Yes.
His heart was beating and he was breathing.
A faint pulse, but
he was unconscious.
Shallow breathing. Yes. So I'm not sure.
So what was the cause of death
then? They say asphyxiation. That's what they were saying.
So maybe there was so much damage to his windpipe or something like this that he couldn't.
Possibly, I don't know. That's the problem, is that they never released the full autopsy report. We got basically like a summary, so it's like 4 pages.
And you were the only point of contact. You were the only emergency contact for him.
His attorney was as well.
His attorney was.
Yeah.
Him and you and the attorney.
Him and his he had 2 Spanish attorneys, so both Spanish attorneys, and neither of them were contacted when John died. No, so none of us were contacted. We all learned of his death through the news.
Wow. Do you think it's possible that if he was murdered, who do you think would have been behind it?
I don't know. I don't know who would have given the orders, but obviously the people, someone in the prison, obviously.
Right. Well, somebody in the prison could have been paid to do it, but somebody obviously powerful who.
Obviously. I mean, and your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
There's a whole host of people that we could begin to name, that John, would have named. He had issues with a lot of people. He made it a point to make issues with a lot of powerful people, and so again, it could be anyone,
Now, at the end of the Netflix documentary,
yeah, Samantha,
whose dad or uncle or something was the Attorney General of Guatemala.
That was Amy.
That was a different girl. Okay.
Yeah, different girl.
Okay, so
no, I'm sorry. Yes, this was Samantha. I apologize.
Samantha?
You're correct.
Okay.
You are correct. Yes, Samantha's uncle. Yes,
okay,
so I apologize.
So Samantha, she says that John called her up 2 weeks after his death.
Yeah.
I mean, why did she say that?
She probably was paid to say it.
What?
I would think so.
Just to like spice up the documentary?
I think so. Because now I don't know. I can't speak for certain that John wouldn't have, been in contact with her, but I can say that after he came back from Guatemala and he was, interacting with Samantha, he then began to field her calls through me. So he would say, it's Samantha, answer this and talk to her, because she was just asking for money.
Yeah.
As always, I need money for this or that. And
well, why? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Why would if he fakes his death, he would definitely tell you.
Right.
Not her. I mean, he wouldn't tell her
maybe
and not
he
you.
would have. I don't know. But honestly, I just believe it was just obviously to spice up the podcast or the documentary.
Yeah.
Because what else did they have? Other than that of retelling the same story, basically, which is what they did. I mean, obviously there was some new stuff because I was included in there, but Robert King had so much more footage that he could have shared to tell a more total story, and maybe he'll come out with that. I would hope so, because it is really fascinating than just this little snippet of what you were able to see. There's so much more footage than that.
Well, to get it down to a 2-hour film, I imagine there's a lot of stuff you got to delete out of there.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But I would imagine it would be like a series, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's John McAfee, and he's fascinating.
If they can do a series on Epstein, they can do a series on John McAfee.
Right, and I think people would want to watch that. I would watch it.
Listen, I just learned about this badass new feature that YouTube's rolling out called Subscribe. Over 51% of the people that watch the show haven't hit our subscribe button. So if you just hit that little red button below, you're going to help us continue to get more exciting guests for you to listen to. Thank you for your time on this matter. Yeah.
I would love to see someone do a documentary on John that is not so obviously biased, you know?
Right.
Obviously trying to tell a singular story, which both Running with the Devil and Gringo was, you know, trying to tell this story of this crazy madman who, you know, went off the rails, which was not at all the case, you know.
Out of all the documentaries, which one do you think is the most accurate?
Neither of them, but I think
Not even close.
I enjoyed Running with the Devil.
Yeah.
It was entertaining.
It
Yeah.
was, definitely.
Yeah.
It was more like guerrilla style filmmaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which was I liked the
Me
style
too.
of it. It was really good. But the Gringo was just absolute horse crap. I don't know if I can curse, but I'm
Yeah, you
not
can
gonna curse. It was horse crap. And I shared some information with
Steve?
with Steve, yes, if he wants to share it. But anyways, but just to get to that, like all of the people that were a part of the Gringo documentary were actually, so Nanette Bernstein was actually the one who was reaching out to them. And so all of those people that were in the documentary actually called John because they were very much in contact with him and said, you know, hey, Showtime's down here and they're asking us to tell them, you know, all of these lies and stories about you, you know, what should we do? And John, you know, he always would tell them if telling them that you saw me eating babies will get them to pay you more money, you tell them that, you know, and you get money because I'm not there to help you guys, you know. And a lot of these people worked for him, in the companies that he started, because he started a boat taxi service. He had a coffee shop, but he had all the locals running these things. So he built it up and then gave it over to the locals to run. So so that's why I didn't really like the Gringo. I actually never really watched it. You know, I watched maybe a snippet of it.
Yeah, I never saw that one, but I've heard about it.
It's trash, actually, absolute trash. Because if you're having to pay people to say what you want them to say, I mean, how trustworthy can you be? You know, when the actual story of John is fascinating on its own.
Yeah.
You know, and it can stand on its own.
Well, I mean, the Running with the Devil documentary, it really made it feel like he was just living. He was treating the world and his life as if he was playing like a real life Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Like he was living his own video game in real life.
But we were, though. We were very much on the run. So we left America because there was a grand jury that was convened and they were going to come and arrest him sort of like in the middle of the night on these tax related charges, right? And so he found out about it from an attorney that he had in Tennessee and decided to leave. But I think he had notions of it before then because he purchased the boat that we left on. The Great Mystery is the name of the boat, the Freedom Boat. And over the course of the summer of 2018, he was, you know, having it restored so that it could be ready. And so by January 2019, it was ready, and we left and ended up leaving, and we went to the Bahamas because they don't have income tax. And so obviously he then could not be extradited back to America for something that's not a crime in the country where he was. And so while we were there was actually information, not sure how he got it, but information that he was going to be arrested on anything, you know, trumped up, you know, charges, drunken, you know, in public, being drunk in public or something, just to get him in custody so that he can be shipped back to America. So we ended up leaving and going to Cuba, which Cuba is amazing if you've never been.
No, I've never. I've seen documentaries. Beautiful. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's really weird because it's like you're going back in time, back into the 50s, because everything's kind of stuck there. But the people are so beautiful there. Absolutely.
At what point in time were you guys there?
So this would have been the summer of 2019. So about May, June, July-ish. Wow. Oh, well, by July we were in Europe.
And Cuba doesn't the U.S.
No, which is why we thought we would be safe.
Right.
And we were for a little bit of time. You know, John was tweeting, you know, about his affinity for Cuba and all of the things. And then maybe about a month into that stay, we were called into a general's office, and he basically told John that, they're being pressured by whoever in the States to, send John back to America. But they didn't want to do that. But we had 72 hours to leave Cuba.
That was cool. They gave you a heads up.
Yeah. So we left Cuba and we went to the Dominican Republic. And when we got there, they were actually waiting for us to arrive there. They had cleared all of the docks of the boats that may have been there. They moved them all to the back. So we were the only boat that came in, and they had soldiers strategically placed with machine guns, kind of just ready for, I'm not sure what they were expecting us to do, but it was crazy.
So in the documentary, in the Running with the Devil, they cut out there was no Cuba footage.
Yeah, no Cuba footage.
Why?
They I don't know.
I figured like that would have been a really cool part.
Yeah, it was really cool in Cuba. It was a really good time.
Fucking Netflix.
Because Robert was there with us. He was there in Cuba.
Really?
He was there in the Dominican Republic. Yeah. So he left America with us, and he was filming all of this. So he's, the Bahamas. He was there, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and then we parted ways at that time because when we got to the Dominican Republic, they made us stay on our boat, and they wouldn't allow us to get off the boat. And we had our 4 dogs with us as well. So, and we had run out of water and food. We were hungry and we stank, and it was bad. So, I'm not sure we weren't sure what they were doing or why they wouldn't allow us to get off the boat to do the normal check-in. You speak to customs and immigration and, declare what you need to declare. And so we had our weapons out. We had 3 guns at the time. So we had them out, unloaded, bullets, everything on the table, ready to declare this to the customs. And then this man and woman came onto the boat like a couple hours later, and they went inside. They made us surrender our phones. They went inside of our boat, and they spent like at least an hour in there. I'm not sure what they were doing. We later found out that they were trying to find John's money. John had a large amount of cash, I think $100,000 on him. And obviously we had to declare that in Cuba. Now, how they found out about it there in the Dominican Republic, not sure. But they took us then, after all of this, they then took us to a holding facility, which was a jail, but they let us be in the cafeteria. So we weren't really detained, but we were detained.
Yeah, you guys had brought the cameras in there and stuff.
Yeah. And so 4 days we spent there. They finally, I think day 2 maybe, or day 3, they finally let one of our security go back to the boat to take care of the dogs, because the dogs have been on the boat now.
Right.
All this whole time. No food, no water, not able to use the bathroom. So we were able to have someone take care of them. And then they took us to immigration. And, they told us, okay, we are sending you all back to your country of origin, which was fine. But then John said, well, I have dual citizenship, so I want to go to the UK. And they said, no, you have to go back to the US. So this began a little bit of a battle. John hired 2 attorneys to fight this in the courts so that he wouldn't have to go back. And they, obviously they needed time to file their paperwork and everything. So this time John, you probably heard that John faked a heart attack in Guatemala. Yeah. Well, this time he faked a stroke, right? So, so after they had returned his money and they were counting it out to make sure they were going to give it to him. So before they did that, John is sitting in a room across from me. And so he comes back over and he says, don't be worried. I'm just doing my thing. And so I'm like, okay. So he goes back over and he's sitting there for a while, and then all of a sudden he falls over on his face and hits the floor. And it's super funny because everyone was just looking at him like, sir, please get up. We know you're faking. Like that was the look on their face. And so, after a little bit of time, he comes to and he's like, oh my God, where am I? Who are you people? Where's my wife? I want to see my wife. What are you doing? And so then our security came over and he said, sir, it's me. It's Steve. He said, no, get away from me. I don't know you. He was a really good actor, right? It was really quite convincing. God. And so, yeah, it was, it was good stuff. So then I was able to, they finally allowed me to go and speak to him. And he's like, where have you been? Where are we? What's happening? He's still putting all this on. And so I, I'm talking to him like, it's okay, you're safe, And, in his ear, I whispered to him as I was hugging him, I said, they're taking me to the airport. I have to go. So, just be safe. I don't know. And I'm just saying goodbye. And so they took me to the airport with everyone else. We had one security who's from the Bahamas, one who's from Haiti. So he was going back to Haiti and Bahamas, and then Robert King was being sent back to the States. And when we got to the airport, they called and said to bring me back because he was in the hospital. And so when I get there, he's got his legs up and he's just chilling. He's on his phone.
Having a margarita?
Not quite, but, he's chilling. And so they kept trying to go and take him for tests, to see if he's okay. And he's like, no, I'm okay. That's okay. I don't want to do that. And finally, the attorneys came and, they had filed what they needed to file. And so John was going to have his day in court, if you will. And so this changed the tune of the head of immigration. And he finally said, okay, well, where would you like to go? And John said the UK. So they bought us tickets, our flights, and took us to the airport. And we made it into the UK. John got us a hotel with Bitcoin. We stayed there. So that was a Friday in July. And so before the government could open up on Monday, we actually left on Sunday and went deeper into Europe. And so we went on a European road trip, which was pretty cool, actually. That's how our relationship started. That was kind of the first thing we did. We went on a 3-week road trip after I had met him in Miami. And so it was cool to have a European road trip. And then we eventually made our way into Spain where we were hanging out.
And okay. Then that was basically the end of it. He left and then he went into prison in Spain. And
Yeah.
So that was a good little prequel to the end of it. But let's rewind and go to the very beginning of the story. And so for people who may not be familiar, can you give a brief summary of how he came to be and the antivirus software company, how he made his money, and then got to meeting you?
Okay, perfect. So John was born. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So the story that he told me of how he got into the antivirus is that he was at his house and his brother-in-law had come over and there was a news article about a computer virus. And he, once his brother-in-law showed him the news story, he was like, oh, well, I could figure this out. He kind of came up with a solution on the spot of how, to rectify the issue. I'm not even sure I think it was Pakistani brain or something was the virus that had come out. And so he was just really intrigued by it. And that's what he liked to do, solve problems. And so that's what he began working on, this antivirus. And
didn't he work for NASA?
Yes, he worked for NASA. And
that's crazy, on the Apollo program.
Worked also I'm not sure about that.
Oh, that was in the documentary.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah.
So that would have been the 60s, late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah. He also worked for Xerox. There was a lot of black programs that he worked on, things that even at the time when he would speak about that, he said he still, there were things he still couldn't speak about.
Really? He honored that stuff even after he freaking fled the U.S.?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And he had top clearance, I guess it is. Obviously, he'd have to. And he often would joke about how, why he was able to get that, because he was completely honest about everything that they asked him, if he did drugs, if he sold drugs, if he, into kinky sex. I don't know. Whatever they ask, the very intimate questions that they ask people. And he was just super honest about that. And so, so the antivirus comes on the scene, and he was actually initially just giving it away, to the individual users, right? And he actually sold his product to the government. They were his first, the military was his first customers, military, then the FBI, CIA, all of these agencies became his first customers, and that's how he made his millions. But he didn't stay long in the company. John was not made for boardrooms and, board of directors. It just, So that didn't last very long at all. I think he was out by 94, 95. And
they got bought out by Microsoft, right?
Intel.
Intel. Okay.
Intel. Yeah. Intel for $7 billion. Yeah. But this was long after his time there. So
$7 billion in the 90s.
yeah. Oh, no, not at that time. I'm sorry. I'm speaking fast forwarding. I think sometime in 2015-ish or something.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sure actually who bought him out in the 90s.
Steve can Google it.
Yeah. Okay. And so he built this really nice compound, I guess if you want to call it that, in Colorado Springs. He actually took me there. It was really cool because he had a bunch of different like little cabins and properties on the main property. It's a really awesome house. His homes were like his works of art, right? And they were just really intricately laid out and designed and really beautiful. So anyways,
he's the textbook
that's where he was
definition of eccentric.
Yeah. Probably, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so he had a lot of other companies in between there. Tribal Voice was one of them. He had an instant messaging, I think, as well. And,
Sold McAfee Associates in 1994, the same year he stepped down as chief executive. Does it say who bought it?
He just sold his...
he sold his stakes.
Stake.
Yeah.
In 94. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. And then, so Tribal Voice, it talks about his Tribal Voice, which sold, I think he said something, 17 million. Powwow was the messaging
Was
system
he
that he had.
forced to sell?
No, I think he just got bored.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was someone that got bored really, really easily. He liked to create things, and once the excitement of that had worn off, he'd go move on to other things. So he was his nephew died while he was living in New Mexico, and I think that was a very pivotal point for him because that's when he decided to move and live in Belize. And it was a devastating loss for him. And
Okay. I thought he was living in Belize because he got in trouble for not paying taxes.
No. He had been paying taxes up until that point. Like he spoke about that a lot. I think he said upwards of 50 million in taxes that he had paid, over the course of his wealth, and he just didn't feel like he got $50 million worth of assistance
Return.
from So that's why I think as well with age, you just don't give a
you don't give a shit.
You just don't care anymore about things, and so that was just a hill he's willing to die on.
And he had a really they lay it out in the documentary when he hires that ghostwriter to write a book about him, and he starts confiding all this stuff about his early life and his abusive father.
Yeah.
And then they're speculating that he might have killed his own dad because he was beating the shit out of his mom.
Yes, this was a speculation. Yes.
Did he ever talk to you about that?
No, not directly, but he did say he spoke a lot about the abuse, but from what I understand, his dad killed himself. So but it was very bad abuse. I do know that. Like broken arms, hospital visits. And no one, much like it is now, no one really gets into domestic issues, that's between that husband and that wife, and so I think that was probably difficult for him as well to not have anyone come and help, even though they knew what was going on. So
I mean, I can't imagine that any child or son seeing their mother get the shit beat out of them by their dad constantly while he's simultaneously probably abusing you. I can't imagine anybody not having the feeling or desire to want to kill that person.
Definitely.
So it's not like
it wouldn't be far-fetched.
Not saying you should kill people, but I don't think that's. If I was the judge, I wouldn't.
It would be understandable,
right?
But then again, we have women who are abused by men who are actually sitting in prison now for killing said men.
That's crazy.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the way the law.
It just sucks all around.
Yeah, it does.
So that again was why he moved to Belize. Was because this is what he had relayed to me. So, when he went to Belize, he was fully intending on retiring there. Like that's where he was going to live out the rest of his days. So everything with him, his wealth. So he had bank accounts, all of the things. He was building homes. He was meeting women. So he had this harem, as I think some news reporter reported. He had a harem of 7 women, Belizean women, who
nice.
were living with him, and so he was just enjoying his life, you know. But I think what people didn't understand is that he was also changing those women's lives, which is why I was interested in him. But we'll get to that part when we get there. But Amy was one of the women who he built a home for.
He built her own home?
Yeah, he built her own home.
Wow. Samantha
as well built her own home. I think there was one other, Tamisha as well, built her own home. That was hers, that she owned. Amy, from the last that I heard, still had her home, and she was working for one of the wealthiest men on the island. He put her through school. He got her a tutor. So she was able to finish high school, taught her English, you know, so it changed her life, you know, in a way that she could then thrive after him, you know. And so this was what he was trying to do for all of them. For Samantha, it didn't really pan out for her in that way, because I think when you are in that lifestyle, you're either going to sink or swim when you meet an opportunity like John McAfee, you know, where it's like you're either going to abuse it or you're going to take it for what it is, an opportunity to change your life, right? To change your circumstances, to change your destiny, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. And so, so anyways, fast forward.
Like, do you want to cash out now, or do you want to play the long game?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and for some, the long game is, okay, yeah, how can I get as much money out of this person as possible? But for me, the long game was, how do I turn over a new leaf or whatever, you know, whatever. Because I was very inspired by what I learned about Amy. Like that was just amazing to me to hear her speaking. Now, she didn't speak to me directly. She didn't like me for whatever reason, but, you know, just to listen, John would let me listen in on the conversations. You know, he would tell her, you know, I was there, you know, listening, and just to hear her, how changed her life was, you know, was just a beautiful thing for me to witness. But anyways, back to Belize. And so, you know, John's there, living there, doing his thing. He's opened up a coffee shop because he wanted coffee. So he has a coffee shop. He's got this taxi ferry going because he couldn't get anywhere on time, you know, with the current whatever means of getting around on the island. So he bought boats and did that. He donated money and equipment to the local police because I think it was where Amy was living or where her home was. You know, he wanted her to be somewhere that was safe. So he donated equipment and money there. And so he's doing all of these things. And in the midst of that as well, he has built this lab, which was not a meth lab, but it was a lab. And he was working actually on topical antivirus. And the plant that was being used was local to the jungles there in Belize. And so he had created some samples that he was giving out to the locals. And this was to solve an issue that he was having. When he came back from Guatemala, he had all of these like bite marks all over his arms and all over his legs. And so that was what the topical antivirus was for, you know, and it really was working, you know.
He was developing all kinds of crazy drugs. I heard he had some like crazy sex drugs.
Yeah, I think Joe Rogan said the best meth was what he said. I think it was.
Yeah. I forgot he went on Joe Rogan's show.
Yeah.
Well, there was a call-in. It was one of the only call-ins Joe ever did.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was trying to get on there after that as well, but I think for whatever reason it didn't work out. But yeah, there were no drugs. I think there was articles about how there was the raid on his property and there was no drugs found. But no one wants to care about that. No, everyone wants to believe that obviously he was making, but which would be stupid for an American, a gringo, a white man, to go into the jungles of Belize, right, where the cartels have the stronghold on the drug business there, right, and set up shop there. There's no way that he would not have survived a month there if that's what he was actually
if he was cooking up his own stuff in his
right,
house.
Actually, like seriously. But so
But there was like the bath salts too, right? Like there was this crazy bath salts he was doing.
I don't know. I wouldn't call them bath salts.
He said it was like 10 in the documentary. They said it was like 10 times better than cocaine.
So I don't know about that. Okay. But I do know he was getting a supplement, I guess I would call it, from China. He definitely was doing that. And he definitely used that. And this, as he, shared with me, was something that he used because he was meant to have a bypass on his heart. And so he went into finding these sort of natural remedies because he didn't want to have to do that. And so I guess somehow that led to
Stimulants could help with that.
So that's what he explained to me, what it was he was getting from China. Yeah. And no bath salts, no cocaine, no
really
weed,
no cocaine.
Weed was,
that would be the first drug I would guess with John McAfee.
Right. I know. But he was super square. He was super
Come
square.
on.
Yeah. When we were living in Portland, he had an issue because I was smoking weed. So he was like, they can come in here and bust the door down and because it was illegal at the time in Portland. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be careful, but I'm not going to stop smoking. Like, that's crazy. But eventually he changed his tune once we were in Tennessee. So that became his drug, if you will, of choice, alcohol, for sure. But
no cocaine.
No, I mean that would have been former use.
We got evidence right here, right? Janice.
So funny. That was actually cornstarch that we bought from the store, and that's what the label is. Yeah, that was such a fun video.
This is the video on how to uninstall
McAfee. Yes, it's so fun. That video, we had the best time that day. Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. And he just wanted to kind of really play up all of the negative press that was going on about him. And so he took all of the things that was being said about him. And in the beginning of this video, he's reading comments that were actual real comments that people had left about his software.
Oh, really?
And then when it goes to the scene with Bartholomew, who was actually, explaining how to uninstall McAfee, that was the actual directions of how to authentically uninstall it. So it was just a fun time.
With that nerdy
Super
dude,
when
all the ladies start massaging him, taking his clothes off.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. He's a real life GTA character.
That's good. Yeah.
That's what he is. I hope GTA, they're coming out with a new Grand Theft Auto. I hope they put him in there.
Right? That would be, someone needs to make a video game.
And I think it's going to be,
John
I think
McAfee
it's in Miami
video.
again too.
Yeah,
It's a Miami based one.
Nice. Because Miami's awesome. So, yeah.
I used to love Miami, but last couple times I've been there, it's just too crowded.
I will say it was weird. So I went after I was on with Matthew. I went down because I just wanted to be there and kind of walked where I had met John and where we spent time. And it's really different. It's strange, actually.
Yeah, I used to love going there, but the last couple of years, every time I've been there probably like 3 times in the last 2 years, and it's just gotten dirtier and more crowded, and the traffic's gotten even worse than it used to be.
It seems really more commercialized. I guess would be a good way to describe it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, just way more people.
Yeah.
Way more people. Different vibe. It's so crowded. The great thing about Miami is it's so close to the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. So no coke, no meth.
No coke. Sorry, guys.
Just
no coke
just some sex drugs and topical antivirus.
Just yeah. Okay. But
at least that's what he said on Rogan.
Yes, I know. I do, and I won't comment.
I don't think it would be a bad thing if he did that. I think it's fine.
I think because there's just this connotation when people ask about drug use as it relates to John, and I think that
yeah, but all the best people do drugs. All the most creative people.
It's how they are creative. Yeah, let's give
all the best musicians
drag.
did tons of drugs.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a bad. As long as you're not like hurting people, forcing them on people, you're fine.
Right.
You don't do it. Doing that stuff to yourself. You're not. It's a victimless crime.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not. I wouldn't even consider it a crime. People have been doing drugs since the beginning of man.
Right. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
Right. To relax.
We got to alter our experience.
Yeah. and he definitely was very knowledgeable
Yeah.
about all kinds of drugs.
Yeah.
So I will say that he wasn't ashamed to talk about his drug use.
Right.
It just didn't happen when I was with him. Well, I will say we did do ecstasy one time, which was
really?
amazing. Yeah, we went to Dracula's castle in
the real one in Transylvania.
Yes, we went there. It was so awesome. We were listening to like lo-fi.
acid?
It was so cool.
Oh wait, what did you say?
Ecstasy.
Ecstasy.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's the best day. It was really cool.
That sounds really.
I don't remember a lot of it. I just remember it was cool.
Was the documentary guy with you?
No.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't there.
Damn it.
But it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. So yeah. Okay, so
back to the Belize.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll get through that as quickly as possible. So anyways, they come to his lab or they come to his property. There was
Doesn't have to be quick. We can take our time. We got
Okay,
plenty of time.
good, because I may need a pee break.
Yeah, that's fine.
But so there were two representatives that came to John's property, government officials in some capacity that came to his property and were offering him, land and tax breaks and women and whatever it is that his heart desired if he was willing to give a $2 million donation to, I'm assuming, the leading political party that was currently in office. And John said, no, thank you. And they left. So I think he said about a week later, they came back, or the GSU came back, which was the gang suppression unit, came back to his property, raided his property. They had him handcuffed for, a long time. I think 12, 14 hours or so.
This is after he declined the $2 million.
Yeah, after he declined, they destroyed his lab. They
shoot his dog.
They did shoot his dog, his deaf dog. They shot his dog
right in front of him.
Yeah, right in front of him. So naturally, this enraged him. They arrested him as well for. They said he had an illegal firearm, which was actually not the case, because he was able to produce the license for it until they let him go and they dropped that charge. And then they came back a week after that and asked him if he changed his mind, and he said, "Get the F off my property." And so this for him began war. Now it's war.
So they asked him, please donate $2 million to this political party. And in exchange, they were going to give him a bunch of land,
Perks.
a bunch of girls, unlimited stuff, live like a king here. He said, no, I'm not into this. I'm not into politics, whatever.
Right.
So a week later, they sent in the SWAT team to raid his house and kill his dog.
Yeah.
And then they come back a couple days later saying, have you reconsidered?
Right.
And he still said F off.
Yes. Yeah. So now he's angry, right? And you don't want John McAfee angry.
John McAfee turned into John Wick.
Yes. Yes, very quickly. It didn't take much. And so what he decided to do was gift computers, laptops to secretaries, girlfriends, boyfriends of people who were like high up in the government, right? So and on these laptops, it had key logging information, right? Spyware on it. Yeah. And so naturally, they took the laptops, not questioning, them or anything. And so he began to...
How many laptops do you know?
I don't know. He never... I don't think I've ever really heard him say how many.
Right.
Or to whom exactly he sent them to. And so... he began collecting information. What he was looking for was just information that he had been set up for this raid on his property, because he was demanding an apology from the prime minister. And instead, what he found was drug trafficking, human trafficking, murder for hire, all sorts of evidence of illegal money laundering, all sorts of things that was being perpetrated by people high up in the government. And so now I think he obviously
so
this
they were
didn't
working
deter
with
him.
all these cartels and gangs and all this criminal stuff.
Well, naturally. I mean, this is what happens in
these kind of countries.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This is just what happened. And so...
But he had hard evidence of it. Like
Yes.
he had emails and receipts and stuff.
Yeah, he had all the things, right?
Wow.
Because this was going on for months, a couple of months before they found out about what he was doing.
And this is obviously, so just to like really clear up the context here, we're talking about Belize before you met him, right?
Yes,
now.
before
Right.
I met him. And so all of this that I'm relaying to you is things that he relayed to me,
Right.
and then also that he's spoken about in
Yep.
various interviews as well.
Yep.
And so so I think the raid happened maybe April of 2012, and they maybe found out about August, because he was on the run for a couple of months before his neighbor was shot and killed. And so
He was on the run, so he left?
was on the run in Belize. So
Okay.
he was going and hiding out at different properties.
So he
that
wasn't staying
had.
at his main house anymore?
No.
Okay.
And so when his neighbor died, he wasn't actually in that home. He wasn't staying in that home.
Did he have like hard evidence, like an alibi for that?
I would imagine so. I mean, he was with Samantha,
Mm-hmm.
so she, would have been his alibi. She was actually with him on the run while all this is happening. Because what happened was they found out about the computers, because he hired women to kind of parse through the information, looking for things related to him. Right. And so one of these women was sleeping with I believe the head of the
He
GSU.
hired women to infiltrate the government?
No. To parse through the information that he was collecting.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yes. So to find out, what was related to him, if there was anything that was related to him,
I
and
see.
what was going on with him.
I
So,
understand.
and one of these women was sleeping with, I believe, the head of the GSU or the head of the police department or something.
Okay.
And so during pillow talk, she kind of just blurted out, what she was doing for John McAfee. And so that's how they found out. And that's why he had to go on the run.
Wow.
And so when his neighbor was murdered, John believed that it was actually a botched hit on him. And it was an actual attempt on trying to murder him, but they went to the wrong house.
Well, didn't the neighbor poison his dogs?
He didn't believe that. He thought it was maybe the police. I don't know the GSU, but the police. Obviously anyone could have done that. Could have thrown meat over the fence, which is probably what happened. And
Because
there
was a beef between the neighbor was pissed off at John's dogs, right?
I heard about that, and John spoke about that, and he never knew about an official complaint that was lodged by the neighbor, but he said everybody complained about the dogs, not just the neighbor. Right. Even he complained about the dogs. They weren't actually his dogs. They were just dogs that were homeless. Yeah. That, he would bring to his property. I think he said he came to Belize with maybe 3 dogs.
Stray dogs.
But yeah, he had like 20 dogs.
Wow.
Yeah. At the time. And so yeah, and there was actually 9 dogs that were poisoned.
Wow.
9 of the
and they were like
poisoned.
suffering, and he had to
he had to shoot
them.
all of them. Yeah.
See, if a hypothetical situation, if that happened to my dogs, and I thought it was, and if I had evidence that the neighbor poisoned and killed 9 of my dogs, and I'm in some foreign country where I could probably get away with murder, I would consider murdering that guy.
Well, I think you would have been smarter than to wait till the next day, right? I mean, at least that's the timeline wise of how they're saying that this happened. That the very next day,
right? John
would have went and did that. It just doesn't make any sense.
You would be smarter, because it's just like it makes too much sense to say like they're gonna easily. It's so easy to point to him as being the guy who killed him because 1 + 2 = 3. The guy poisoned your dogs. You had to execute your own dogs. This guy hates your dogs, and you went out and murdered him. Like, it's an easy case to prosecute. Like, it's a
right.
So, there is that. You would think he would be smarter than that.
And he was, but again, he was not at the property. Again, this is what he
wasn't even there.
Has always said that he wasn't staying at the property because they were looking for him at the property. They were kind of waiting on the beach so that they could arrest him. Well, not arrest him. Obviously, they were just going to take him in custody, and he would have disappeared. We would have never heard anything more of John McAfee. So, and this is why he refused to go back to Belize to be questioned. Now, he was never wanted for murder. I think I sent something to Steve, one of the articles from in Belize, one of the papers in Belize, there was an article saying that he wasn't wanted for murder, but he was wanted for questioning. And he offered to be questioned in any neutral area, other than Belize. He just refused to go to Belize. He wasn't going to go there. And so because obviously he was concerned for his safety, you know.
Police
This was in the Bahamas when John was going to dox the police chief as well as the CIA agent was behind trying to have him collected in the Bahamas, arrested illegally.
What's the one we're looking for here?
It's gonna be I don't see it there.
The
on
only
the side.
articles are this one and this guy.
Yes, there's that one. This was an article as well in there. There it is. No, not that one. I'm sorry. There's another one, but that's him demanding the apology. This is from Edward McCoy, who was actually in the documentary, who talked about how he was approached and offered money to give his story that he gave in the documentary.
Well, we were trying to find an article.
Yes, I'm sorry. We're trying to find an article. I sent you a few pictures, but we can talk about these things while we're looking at it. There it is, the top one there.
Okay,
Yes,
McAfee.
not a suspect in
McAfee,
murder
not a
case.
suspect in the murder case. Belize police. Okay.
So this was CNBC. I'm sorry, I
What's
I
the date?
misquoted that.
November 15th, 2012.
Yeah. So he wasn't actually wanted for murder. Again,
He just wanted to
was
question
just
him.
wanting to question him,
And he
right?
didn't
Which is
trust
why he
him.
didn't have any issues when he came back to America. No one was arresting him or trying to, take him into custody, right? Because there was no criminal charges hanging over his head.
So the Belizean government knew that he tapped into the laptops,
they
and
found
they
out.
knew that he had dirt on them.
Yes.
So he speculated that they wanted to get a hold of him
Yes.
and sort of like get all of that evidence
Yes.
and figure out exactly what he found out. And okay,
Exactly.
I see.
And this continued throughout our relationship. This was, I believe, the source of all of his issues, because they needed to get that information. Now, they could have killed him at any point, right, if killing him was the goal. But that wasn't the goal. They needed to collect him to find out where the information was and to make sure they had all of the information and destroy it. And then
They could do what
they could do what they needed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
because if they just tried to whack him, he could have like a dead man switch or something,
Right.
and that would just release all the footage or
Right.
give the footage to you and say give it to the press if
Yeah.
I die.
Yeah. So that I think I covered Belize. Yeah.
Okay. So then he left Belize.
Yeah.
And that's when the documentary crew was with him.
Yes.
And they went to Guatemala.
Yes, they went to Guatemala, and they decided to share a picture saying we're with McAfee suckers, and they
Oh, on
forgot
Vice.
to
This is
take
the Vice thing.
Yes, the Vice thing. They forgot to take the EXIF data out, and so as soon as the picture was posted, people found out exactly where John was. So this is where Samantha's uncle comes into play, and phone call is made to the uncle. He sends his driver to come and get them, to bring them to where the uncle
the
is.
city, yeah.
Yeah, to the city. And so that's what you see, in the documentary. This is well documented as well throughout the press,
And then
when he was
Interpol
arrested.
comes and then arrests him.
Yeah, all of those
That's when he
things.
fakes the heart attack.
Yes, it's the heart attack because he needed to, much similar to the situation in the Dominican Republic, the Attorney General needed time to get the judge to sign off on the putting in the stay of extradition back to Belize. And so that gave them the time that was needed. And so once, the documentation was filed with the courts, John magically got better, and then they took him to the airport. And he said it was kind of surreal because all the path or the road to the airport was completely clear of all foot traffic, all car traffic, and there was like a military people kind of stationed.
An escort?
Yeah. An escort as well, but stationed kind of on corners just to make sure that he made it safely to the airport. Yeah.
And where did they take him to after that?
So he flew into Miami. Yeah. So they took him
Straight from
yeah.
Guatemala.
I'm assuming so. I never really got into that. But I'm assuming that he made it. That's what happened. So when he got to Miami, before the plane could get to the gate, the plane was stopped on the tarmac, and he said that the captain came on, on the radio and said, "Would John McAfee please come forward?" And John said, he's thinking like, "Crap, what now?" And there were men in black suits that came on the plane and said, and he kind of was like, "Well, what trouble am I in now? You know, what's going on now? And they said, no, we're just here to help you, sir. He said, there's, you know, the press is out there. You know, there's like 200 press, you know, that are out there. So we want to take you somewhere safely. And so he said, you know, just take me to a taxi stand. So they had cleared out one of the terminals, and there was just that taxi that was waiting for him. They put him in the taxi, and he went to South Beach. And he stayed at the Beacon Hotel. So that's where he would normally stay. So he went there because he had no money. He just had the clothes on his back. And so he asked I guess whoever the manager or someone there, if they would pay for his taxi and if they would give him a room, you know, kind of just on credit, you know, and he would work out how to pay for it. So they did that.
So he didn't have bank accounts anywhere worth
He
money?
had been in Belize.
Oh, all his money was in Belize. All of it.
Yeah.
He didn't have any offshore anywhere else?
I'm not sure that.
I would imagine
know.
he would have like it scattered.
I do know that he had like emergency stashes.
Yeah.
Because that was what the road trip was about.
Oh, that's
that
what we'll get to that.
road trip.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating stuff.
And so, but at the time, no, he had nothing. So he had no money. A friend came and brought him $5,000 in $5 bills because that's what he paid me in. 1,000.
$5,000 and $5 bills.
It's super crisp. Yeah, $5 bills.
That's amazing.
Yeah, in a brown paper bag. Yeah, and so, you know, he was doing press at the time. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know he was in Miami. I didn't watch the news, so I didn't know he was in Miami. And I actually wasn't even out that night. It was the 13th of December. I wasn't out that night. It was
What year?
2012.
2012. Okay,
Yeah.
2012.
So, you know, I was at home sleeping, and my pimp calls, and he's like, you know, well, why aren't you guys out? It's like, because it's slow. It's a slow night tonight. I don't want to go out, right? And so he's like,
So you were,
well,
we haven't covered this yet, but you
Oh,
were,
I'm sorry.
you were a working girl.
Yes, I was a prostitute. Yes. Yeah, I was. I had been for almost 10 years at that point.
Okay. How old were you?
Oh, I had just turned 30. My birthday is December 9th, so I just turned
You had
30.
just turned 30. Wow.
Yeah.
So you started when you were
started
20?
21.
Wow.
Almost 21.
Okay.
Yeah. And so working the streets, right? I started off in the Bay Area, in Oakland, a little bit of San Francisco. Then we went to LA, San Diego, Vegas, a little bit in Denver, you know, and then the internet became, you know, Craigslist became a thing, or was a thing, and then Backpage, and then Arrow's Guide, and so that's what I was doing, you know, internet and the streets if the internet was slow. I worked also in Phoenix. I hate Phoenix. It's so hot there. It's the worst place to work on the streets. DC, Virginia, Maryland, the DMV, as they call it, Miami.
Wow. What was the best place to prostitute? I would imagine Miami.
Miami was good.
Yeah.
Miami was good. The DMV was good for me because I'm black, and so it was just a different vibe there.
Yeah.
It was just easier place to make money because there's places where, you know, white girls, you know, are gonna fare better, you know, and so
I always like, one of the crazy things I never understood, which I think is so silly, is that prostitution's illegal.
yeah,
I think that's one of the dumbest things. It might even be dumber than drugs.
yeah.
Because, you know, at least there's a case to be made that people can do drugs and like get behind the wheel of a car and like kill somebody or but prostitution, there's no victim. It's the oldest profession.
There's not supposed to be a victim, but
right. If it's done right.
Yeah.
It's the oldest profession.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's illegal unless you turn a camera on, then it's porn and it's legal.
Right.
It's so stupid.
Right.
Anyways.
Yeah. And maybe there would be less exploitation of the people that are, you know, forced one way or another to find themselves in that occupation. Yeah. So yeah, I think Miami probably, best place, DMV as well. So yeah, I was working there. We had been in Miami for a year and a half maybe before I met John. And so So I go out, reluctantly I go out. Now it's after midnight, so it's December 14th, 2012. And I go to a place called Mango's. That was kind of the night spot. Clevelander was kind of shutting down. So this is on Ocean Drive. I'm sorry, Ocean Drive for anyone not familiar with Miami. And I was sitting outside of Mango's and decided that me and my girlfriend, or the other girl that was working for my pimp, that we were going to go to Fort Lauderdale to the casino, to the Hard Rock. And so we leave, and I actually happened to park our car across from the Beacon Hotel, which I don't normally park over there, but that's where we were parked. So that's where we were walking to. And I actually saw John standing outside of Johnny Rockets, talking to a worker there. And when I passed him, we made eye contact, and I smiled at him and nodded, and I kind of sized him up really quickly, like, he doesn't have any money and he doesn't look interested.
He looks like a bum.
Yes, I did, right? Because
that's so funny.
I was, how wrong I was, but yeah, that's what.
So funny.
That's how I sized him up, and so, we proceed to get to the Beacon Hotel, and that's when the night manager comes out, and we've chit-chatted before, just asking him, what's going on tonight, who's in town, are the police out harassing girls, just trying to get a feel for what's happening, that night. And while we're talking, he happens to look down and he says, well, that guy is down there, yeah? And I was like, no, I don't know who that is. He said, well, that's John McAfee. And I'm like, okay, well, who's that? And he said, well, that's do you know the McAfee antivirus? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, that's the guy who created that. And so, immediately I was like, ooh, and, but I still was not sure that I wanted to. But anyways, I was just like, okay, well, let's just see what happens, right? So I go down, I'm walking back towards where he was, and he's now made it to the news cafe. And he was smoking a cigarette. And so while he was smoking his cigarette, I asked him for one just to kind of open up the conversation. And while he was lighting my cigarette, he asked me, what are you girls out here doing, drugging and rolling old men? And I said, we don't use drugs. And so he was very intrigued by that response, and invited us to have, to sit and have coffee with him. And so, I went through the whole spiel of, would you like, some chocolate tonight, some vanilla, 2 for $1, or, a little swirl. Whatever. Yeah. All the things, just to get it out of the way, right? Because I'm with this girl, and so I have to, give the appearance of trying to do business, else I could get in trouble with the pimp, if I'm not teaching her the right thing. So anyways, we went through that, and he was like, I'm really not interested. I said, okay, well, what's your story? Who are you? What brings you to Miami, business or pleasure? And he was like taken aback by that. He's like, well, I've been in the news, for like the past couple of weeks here, especially here. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't watch the news. So who are you? He's almost insulted a little bit that I didn't know who he was. And so he just began to tell me, his story of how he came to be in Miami and all of the things that I just relayed to you about his time in Belize. And so, not in such great detail that I've told you, but yes, and overall. And so he then also began to tell me about the girls, the girls that he met. I'm not sure how the conversation shifted to them, but he was telling me about the girls, and that's when I learned about Amy and Samantha, just the more intimate things of him building houses for them and all the things he did for them. And so, a couple of hours has passed by, while we're having this conversation. But while we're sitting there, the way that the news cafe used to be set up was there was like a ground level, if you will, and then there was a lifted area where you came up the stairs.
The news cafe?
Yeah, the news cafe right there. They've remodeled it since. Okay. But so there was like a wall there. For that lifted part. And so he was sitting with his back to that wall. But while we're sitting there for these hours, he's watching very closely people that are walking by, people that are driving by. And so I picked up on that immediately, because that's something that I would have to do, being a working girl, right? You got to keep your head on a swivel and be just aware of your surroundings. And so, so there was I would say that he was concerned. He was just trying to be aware of his surroundings. So I just made a mental note of that. I was very aware of that while he's telling me this story, you know.
Right.
And so he asked me if I could get rid of my girlfriend because she wasn't really adding much to the conversation. She was high on Molly, so she was, yeah. And so yeah, I told her that she could go ahead and leave, and so she did, and we hung out a little longer, and then he invited me back to his hotel, and we went to his room where he, so he goes in, and we're in his room, and he goes in the bathroom, and, you know, I'm looking around because I'm just nosy that way, whatever. And he comes out of the bathroom and he's like kind of nervously like rocking up and down on his tippy toes on the side of the bed. And he's like, would you mind if we just cuddled? And I was like, yeah, sure, we can do that. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, like what kinky sex thing is this? Because I've never heard of cuddling. So like, oh my God, trying to go through my Rolodex. But I was like, okay, whatever it is, I could figure it out. Right. Yeah, I could figure it out. So, but he just wanted to cuddle. And so we got in bed and he like wrapped himself tightly around me and laid his head on my shoulder, and he was asleep in like 5 minutes, snoring. And it was the best sleep ever. Yeah. And obviously other things happened, obviously. But but not that night.
Oh, not that night.
No, not
yeah,
that.
That seems odd though, doesn't it? Like, what do you think that was about?
He was tired. He was tired, and he just needed a good night's rest.
Right.
You know, like he just went through all of this life-threatening,
that he wanted
situation.
Somebody to cuddle with, to sleep next to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because he said, you know, while he was in Guatemala, he could have women, you know, and you know, he had good coffee, he had all of those things, but he didn't.
So like a woman was like the equivalent of a blanket for a normal person for him. Right. Like I can't go to sleep without my blanket and my pillow. He can't go to sleep without a woman.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Wild.
It was pretty cool though.
That's
and so yeah, so in the morning he paid me the 5,000. I mean 1,000. I'm sorry,
1,005.
He gave me 1,000 and the fives from the 5,000 that he had, and he was getting ready to go and do an interview with Fox News or somebody, and you know he said you can go down and have breakfast, you know, and just charge it to the room. Mm-hmm. And then he said, "Will you be here when I get back?" And I was like, really? You want me to stay? Like, you know, because we don't stay. We're not asked to stay, right? You know, we're just, you know, whatever.
One and done.
And so it's like, okay, yeah, I'll stay. Mm-hmm. And so he left and I went down to have breakfast. And while I'm sitting, I'm just at the Beacon. So I'm sitting out front having breakfast, and a taxi pulls up, parks right in front, and the driver gets out of the car and walks directly to me. And he says, hey, so you know John McAfee? And I'm like, no, I don't know who you're talking about. Who's that? And he's like, yeah, okay, well, can you just tell him that his cab driver's here? And I was like, well, I don't know who John McAfee is, so I can't help you. And he's like, okay, well, just tell John McAfee that his cab driver is here. My cab's right there, and I'll be here, you know, when he needs a taxi. And I was like, I'm sorry, I really can't help you. I don't know who you're talking about. And so now I'm on guard, and I'm a little spooked because nobody knew that I was with him, you know, except for the night people, you know, and who, you know, for me, like why would someone know who I am, right? You know, and who is this taxi driver? And
so the dude who worked at the front door at the hotel knew who you were, though, right?
Right.
At night,
right. And so this is now the next morning.
Right. Okay.
Right. So, and it would have been long after shift change, right? So the night people would not have been there either. And so this, you know, definitely spooked me. So when John came back, I told him about this cab driver, and he was like, I don't have a cab driver, so I don't even know who that would have been, you know? And so he told me, though, that there was a table of people that he wanted me to go down there and just check them out and see what I thought about them, because when he was coming back to the hotel, he spotted them. I don't know what about them concerned him, but he sat down with them and he said, well, I want you to see if one of them is the cab driver, the guy that came and told you that he was my cab driver. So I was like, okay. So when I went down there was nobody there. And so I went back up there to the room, and he's like, okay, well, we're going to go out for lunch. So we went out to Lincoln Drive, where, all the restaurants and all the things are over there. And we were kind of just walking around, and we decided to sit and get a bite to eat. And John, while we're sitting there, John is kind of just pointing out people to me, and he's like, okay, look at that guy. He's got a weapon in his front pocket, or he's got a weapon. Look at his ankle. And he's showing me what to look for on these people. And then there was someone that had walked by, and I remember he grabbed the butter knife, because that was all that he had for a weapon, and kind of tucked it, in his sleeve on his lap, and was kind of like at ready. So I don't know now what's happening, but I do know, okay, the taxi cab driver was super weird. I do know the night while we were talking, in front of the news cafe, he was just watching people intently. So I need to be on guard here. I don't know what's going to pop off, but I need to be ready for whatever it is.
And the only threat, the perceived threat, is still Belize government.
For him, yes.
Okay.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
And so, so we're sitting there, we have our lunch, and while we're sitting there, I'm not sure because the Lincoln Drive is like a long stretch, and then there's like streets that run parallel, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of sitting in the middle, but I can see a road ahead of me, and there was this SUV that just kept circling around, and it was the same SUV because it was the same driver. And I made John aware of that, and so he decided that we were going to go back to the hotel, and he decided that we should go and change hotels. So we ended up in Fort Lauderdale at the Four Seasons or something. Anyways, that's not that important. Mm-hmm. But we just moved locations, just to distance from where we were. And spent a couple of days together, and then John said, I have to go. I'm going to go to Tennessee, but I'm going to call you, and I want you to come and meet me there. And so, I thought this was it. It's over, whatever. This is probably the last time I'm going to hear from him. But he indeed did call me, and I flew out to Tennessee and met him. He had purchased a pickup truck, and so we...
What do you have out in Tennessee?
His head of security actually lived there. His head of security, okay. John Poole, who had been his head of security for over 20 years at the time. Oh, wow. And so that's where he was going to meet with him. And he purchased a pickup truck, a Dodge Ram, and we drove from there to Portland. Why Portland? I'm not sure still. I think he had, there was someone that was doing like a graphic novel about John's story. Chad was his name, and that's where he lived, so I guess that's where we needed to be. Mm-hmm. But in between that, on the trip, we would get a hotel, and he would just disappear for hours, sometimes a day or so. And it was later that he told me that he was actually going out to these remote areas and digging up whatever caches he had of emergency money or supplies or whatever it was that he needed. So I didn't get to actually see him doing any of that, but he just would disappear for long periods of time.
And that was all over Portland.
No. This was in between our driving from
this Portland was the whole road trip from Tennessee to Portland.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He had spots that he buried cash across the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did he allude at all to you, like when he did this and why he did this?
No, but he did a lot of off-roading. That was kind of his thing. He liked to do off-roading when he was living in New Mexico. So before he left the States, this is what he did. Wow. And I'm assuming that would have been when the time was that he would have been burying these things, whatever it was. Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was on the way to Portland. Mm-hmm. And then what happened when you guys got there?
So we get to Portland, and we've got a hotel, and I actually have to go back to Miami because I have a court date because I had been arrested. I've obviously been arrested numerous times as a working girl, soliciting, loitering. This is the charges that they give you. never really was caught in the act. Maybe one time caught in the act, but everything else was because I was in an area known for prostitution. Then the assumption is you're a prostitute, and so they charge you with soliciting and loitering.
Right.
So this was one of those times, and my sentence was deferred, and they put me into a program, about safety awareness or some sort of program that they, you have to attend, and also you have to stay out of trouble for X amount of time, usually about 6 months. And so I did that, and they were just going to go and close out the case. So I needed to go back to Miami, and before I left, John said to me, listen, I'm not going to allow you to be taking care of a grown man, right? So this was his way of alluding to knowing that I had a pimp, because we never really talked about the pimp, right? Meanwhile, during this entire road trip, the pimp is calling, the pimp is texting, and because he wants to know blow by blow what's happening and where's the money and when are you going to give me money, send me, all of the things that
how does that work?
It was really stupid, and it was really weird, because it's like, first of all, I can't answer the phone. I'm sitting in the car next to the man, right? So he's going to hear you. He's going to hear what I'm saying to you. You're not going to be smart enough to ask me questions that's not going to make him aware that you're on the phone with me. Right. And so we were arguing a lot, a lot.
So the pimp is under the assumption that you're on this road trip getting paid, and he's going to get a cut of all of it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, so John said, if you're going to come back here, then this is sort of the ground rules,
Kick that guy to the curb.
Right. Exactly. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. Anyways, other things happened after that, but that was the plan. That was the intention. And
that's another thing. If prostitution becomes legal, they have to get rid of pimps.
You would think so, yeah.
I would imagine. Do you think it would be better without pimps?
My life would have been better without.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been a prostitute, actually.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But I don't think.
You think the pimp is the one that pushed you? That's how you got pushed into it in the beginning.
For sure.
Oh, wow.
But I don't think that it would address the issue of the people that are really being exploited in this industry, right? The people that are being trafficked.
Right.
That's not going to, making prostitution legal is not going to address that issue, right? It's not going to help the children that are being trafficked, into these sexual situations.
Right.
So
when you have people above that can exploit people below it, that's when it becomes even like a way worse problem.
Yeah. And maybe it could help. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think people we are loving and kind and gracious and all of the things, but we can be absolute monsters. And I don't know that there is any law that can be passed to exercise the monstrosity of the human nature. Where people can be exploited, they will be exploited. Someone, somewhere will exploit them, right? This is just our nature, and we have to accept that. And then from there, combat the issue. You understand what I'm trying to get at? I don't know if that made any sense, but I think,
no, it makes sense. Humans are capable of some vile shit,
right?
That's for sure.
And we have to account for that. We have to accept that we are capable of that, because then we can approach the problem with a solution that's going to actually solve an issue, right? Any issue, I think, anyways.
Yeah. There's a lot of very deep corruption that's involved in that, I'm sure contributes to a lot of the prostitute. I mean, people being trafficked out of like orphan homes and things like this, or even people crossing the
Foster
border.
homes,
I know they're like the cartels are like charging tons of money and even like smuggling young people and kids out of Mexico to bring them here to be prostitutes and for this kind of stuff. It's sick. Yeah, any kind of thing they will exploit human life to the end of the earth if it makes them money.
Absolutely.
People, and that's another problem with people that are desperate too. Like cartels can take advantage of people who are the most desperate.
Yeah.
And they're and people that are willing to do anything to feed if you have I always say this, if one of the worst things that people can do besides like human trafficking and stuff is like there's poaching and stuff that goes on in Africa where they kill endangered species like elephants and stuff like this. And there's only so many of them. But the people who are killing these elephants are just trying to feed their kids, and they have no money. And if you have no other option, if I have no other option, if I can put myself in that person's shoes, and it's my kid or my daughter that is gonna starve to death unless I kill this endangered elephant, I'm gonna kill that endangered elephant every day of the week to do that.
Right.
And those are the type of people that get taken advantage of with things like drug trafficking and human trafficking, poaching, and they're also the ones that get in trouble. It's not the people that are way above them manipulating them. They always escape prosecution and the law.
Right.
But anyways, that was a rant.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So, yeah.
What were we talking about before this?
I made it. I went to Miami. Went back to Miami.
Oh,
and,
yeah, that's right.
I only brought that.
John
up
told you to
because
cut off
there's
that guy.
Yeah, there's a little specific thing that why I brought that up. So while I was there in Miami, the pimp, we're talking, and the pimp and the girl who I was with when I met John, she's like, well, what is he like? What do you think is going to happen? You think he's going to marry you? And so, I'm saying all these stupid things like, yeah, I think we're going to get married. I want to get my name in the will and all this stupid stuff, just stupid things, that we say. And so, the pimp one day, we were having a conversation about how much I thought that John was going to pay me, for what, I'm not sure what he was thinking of, because he had already spent $3,000 to take care of the my rent for the condo we were renting, and then for the car note as well, and then just extra spending money, right, which I had already sent to take care of those things. But it was actually not he actually paid directly, those things, and then he gave me spending money, anyways. And so I'm not sure what the pimp was thinking John was going to pay me money for, right? But he had all these sorts of ideas of wanting me to like, get pictures of him, video of him, because nobody knew during that time where John was or who he was with, but he was with me. So he's thinking, we could sell this stuff to the press and make money that way. And just trying to come up with just ways to, extort money from John. And so he was like saying something about getting him to pay me $50,000. And I was like, he's not going to pay me $50,000. It's a stupid amount of money for what? And he was like, well, at least $20,000. And I'm like, okay, but we just went on a road trip. Like I don't know what his mind was on. And so fast forward, I get back to Portland, and John's head of security, we arrived together. So we're all in the elevator together. John, his head of security, and myself going up to the room. And his head of security all of a sudden just says out loud, oh, yeah, I brought that $50,000 that you asked me to bring. And it was just
To you?
really weird. No, he's talking to John.
John, oh, okay.
So it was just really weird. I'm like, why would he say that out loud? But then my mind immediately goes to the only time I was talking about this or this was spoken of was when we were in Miami. So now I'm like, okay, so obviously he's listening. He had a way of listening and hearing what was happening in Miami. I don't know if it was my phone or if it was the house.
Right. Okay,
or somebody's home, or our phone, I should say. And so, but I assumed that he would have been anyways. I assumed that I would have been being monitored because John just didn't seem like the type of person where I wouldn't be, and so that just gave me the heads up, or it just confirmed my suspicions that I definitely was being watched and listened to. And so he thought for sure I was going to take the money. The head of security did, and his other security thought I was as well. So they left me in the room. John left me in the room with the money, and he was like, okay, I'm going to go. And I remember I went to smoke a cigarette outside of the hotel, and this guy comes walking down the road, And he had on a white shoe and a black shoe, but obviously I couldn't see that. So he's coming from the opposite corner because the hotel we were on was on the corner. And he's walking, he's kind of limping, and he's like, looks like a bum, and he's limping down. And as he gets closer to me, he starts to straighten up, and he's now walking straight with no limp or anything. And he's got on a white shoe and a black shoe. And as he's passing by me, he gives me like this death stare. Because again, everyone assumed I was going to take the money, but I didn't take the money. And that sufficiently spooked me. Anyways, I don't know why I told that story, but yeah.
So they were like testing you to see if you were going to rob them.
I think so.
Or see where your loyalties were.
And John, you know, would later say that he knew that I wouldn't, you know, that I wasn't going to take the money, but he had to, I guess, go along with whatever. I don't know. So, yeah, lots of little things like that happened in the course of our being together.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick bathroom break.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll be right back. So this is from who again?
This is from someone who was trying to extort some money from John while he was living in Belize. These are the sort of things that people would send to him. Okay. This was not an isolated incident, but it was
people
just
were always trying to extort him.
Yeah, extort money from him.
And we were just talking before we started back on from the break about this hitman.
Yeah, there was the hitman from the first documentary that was done about John called The Gringo. Right. And in it, Eddie McCoy, he was allegedly paid by John by check to to kill his neighbor. Oh, and so this is what was reported in that documentary. And so John was, you know, in contact with Edward McCoy, and he would email me to, you know, as a way, kind of a middleman, to get, you know, whatever message he wanted to John, because John wouldn't speak with him directly. And so he also sent over a Western Union showing that Nanette had paid him, I think it was $3,000 US, to tell this story of him being paid by check by John to kill the Nanette Bernstein. And she was actually the producer, I believe, of the Gringo documentary.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the check?
This is the Western Union that she had paid him to give this story.
Sender Nanette Bernstein.
Yes.
To, where does it say to?
Receiver, it says at the top, just under Western Union, receiver is Edward McCoy.
Okay. 25 Dean Street.
Yeah.
So she paid him $3,000, and he was interviewed in that documentary?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so this could to be devil's advocate, this could just be payment for like appearance in the documentary.
Of course, obviously, but that's a large amount of money for just coming on and sharing a story. You know, right? And so, yes, this could just be that. Obviously, playing devil's advocate. Yes, it could be, but this also goes to just the larger point of the documentary as a whole. You know, that you know, the people that were in the documentary had reached out to John and, you know, were saying that they were down there looking for people to tell, you know, these fantastical stories about John. But there was no one really to corroborate that. I guess I should say, you know, reading through the comments of some of the stories, the reports that were made about him, you know, people would comment about, well, that wasn't my experience with him. You know, he was always very kind and so I think it was just interesting to see the lengths that this Showtime, you know, people were willing to go to tell this story that was very biased. And since you haven't watched the documentary, you won't understand what I'm talking about.
Did they ever ask to interview John?
Yes, she wanted John on there.
And he didn't do it?
No, he didn't want to do it.
Right.
For this very reason, because he had been getting phone calls from all of the people that were being approached to, and I think they paid another gentleman, I think he said upward of $12,000. His name was Cassian. He was like John's property manager. So he was like, I guess, really close to John at that time. And so, yeah, this letter was just an interesting thing.
This is just a random person trying to extort
trying to
him.
extort money. From
John
them.
McAfee. This is Swan.
Swan.
I am deep in shit.
And so
I am in deep
think,
shit.
I should say the Swan. It was the Swan brothers who I guess were known to be very violent, kind of known around the island.
Oh, really?
For their, illegal activities and violent mannerisms, I guess.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it was a crazy time he was living in
What a
Belize.
life. He had to have been so paranoid.
Yeah, but I think he enjoyed the chaos. He was, he came on this earth in chaos. He was born during World War II. So,
yeah.
And his parents' meeting was chaos. His mother was married already to someone
Oh, really?
who was off in the war, and she got pregnant by his dad, who was an American soldier. And the story goes that they were having like a romantic evening in her house. And so below was a jewelry store. So and they lived above that. And there was a lot of candles that were lit, which then lit a curtain on fire, which then burned the entire home and business down.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
Pretty cool. But I also wanted to show, maybe if we can shift, we'll show a picture. It's of me and John. It's one of the first pictures taken of us publicly. And you see the gentleman in the background there, just between our heads.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
He looks creepy.
Yeah, this is what we were kind of dealing with,
Who is that guy?
from the onset. This was just someone that was following, keeping tabs on John.
He looks rough there.
Yeah.
John does.
Yeah, he does.
That
Yeah.
was-
Okay, so now you can see why I made the assumption that he was broke and he was not.
Yeah.
Right.
How old is he there?
He's 66.
Wow.
66, yeah.
Wow. I love those sunglasses, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Those are pretty sweet.
Thank you. Yeah, I was looking rough too.
No,
Extremely
you didn't look rough. You look great. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to the story. Where did we leave off
Yeah,
with
the story. So I just told the
He told you to
story.
break off the pimp, right?
Yeah, the pimp, and which I did for a little bit of time. And so I told the story as well about the money, the $50K, because just to give context. So I understood very much.
Right.
I assumed from the beginning that I was being watched and listened to,
Right.
but that was confirmation of that.
Right.
And so moving forward, when we moved into our apartment in Portland, I was under the same assumption. And so, we're there. John's in and out of town. He has flavors of the week, as I call them, women that were coming and staying, or women that he was going and seeing, because I wasn't asking exclusivity from him, right? We weren't monogamous, and I wasn't.
You were young.
What
You
he did
didn't-
was what
right.
he did, and that was fine. I was fine with that, right? Our arrangement was that he, gave me a place to stay, a car to drive.
Were
and
you
I
allowed
had
to have other
access to money.
boyfriends?
No.
Oh, that's not fair.
Yeah.
See,
no.
if he gets to play around, then you get to
Right.
play around.
But I wasn't, here's the thing. I wasn't interested or I didn't have a need to be itched like that, you know what I'm saying? Or a want to be.
No?
You know what I'm saying? No, not really. I mean, I came from, being a prostitute. So
You kind of like you think you
just wanting to have somebody to have fun with was not, that's what John was for. You know what I mean?
you wanted more of an emotional connection or like
I wasn't sure what I wanted
yeah.
with John. I just knew that I wanted it to last as long as he was willing to allow it to last.
But didn't you want? Did you had no desire for like a life partner or like even if it wasn't sexual, like you didn't have any desire for like yeah, I don't know how else to put it by like but by like a partner, like a life partner or like a
I just knew that I liked him.
yeah.
I liked John a lot. I was smitten, I think is
Yeah?
the perfect word.
So
to
you,
say.
like, actually liked him,
Yeah,
liked
I'm
him.
like blushing about it now. Yeah, I
Wow.
really liked him.
Wow.
Like a girl likes a boy. That like
Really?
sort of just
Wow.
yeah, he was fascinating. And because I liked him, I was, I guess all in.
Okay.
Just to see where it would go, and
And you guys had known each other for how long at this point?
Oh, just a couple months.
Just a couple months.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's now
So
like
you're
maybe
it's fresh.
February
Right.
of 2013. Yeah. And so
give it a year, you'll be sick of them.
Yeah, we did have some epic fights. So, but yeah, at the time, I just wanted to be around him. I really liked him.
By the way,
yes.
sorry to interrupt, but
No, go ahead.
speaking of that, the part in the second documentary,
Yes.
Running with the Devil,
Yes.
where you were like, yeah, she held a knife to my throat. You're like, I didn't hold a fucking knife to your throat. Don't confuse me with some other bitch. Oh God, I was laughing my ass off. And you slammed
Yes.
the table. He was like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
God, that was great.
Good
That was one of the
times.
best moments.
Yeah.
For me.
Thank you. Yeah. He was definitely a character. But, oh my goodness. That was, I looked rough in that documentary. Can I just say that? I've looked really, really bad.
You did?
I was drinking a lot. I was stressed.
Yeah.
My brother had just died. And so all of these things, I had left my kids again, my family. I didn't know when I was going to see them again. So it was a really, really, really rough time.
Right.
But,
And that's another thing. You had a kid or multiple kids, three children that were living with your parents in California during this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then at
And
one
the
point you guys went
time
and visited.
while I was a working girl,
Right.
I asked my dad to take them from me so that they could, be raised normal and they could be safe from the pimp, because that was the concern, that he would begin, abusing them. Not sexually necessarily, but I didn't know what he was capable of, but physical abuse for sure, because that's what he was beating me. So, and I couldn't protect them from that. They witnessed a really bad fight. He almost killed me, and they were there. So it was after that. My children were.
Who almost killed you?
Oh, I'm sorry, my pimp. He almost killed me.
In front of your kids?
Yeah. Not in front of them, but they were in the house. But they could hear what was happening. It was really loud. He was,
Jesus
and they were
Christ.
crying, and my son. I remember my son came in the room. My daughter's just like, "Mommy," and I had to just take him and put him back in the room and just stay here. Just stay here. And, so I asked my dad to come and get my kids, because I just couldn't keep them safe, and for whatever reason, I just believe that situation was my punishment. I grew up very religious, so I just felt like this was my punishment for being rebellious, because I was, and just the decisions that I made that led me into the situation with the pimp, so but I wasn't willing to have my children also be punished. This was my punishment, and I didn't want them to suffer in it as well. So
I think you did the right thing.
I think so. Well, the right thing would have been to get out of it myself.
Right.
But for whatever reason, I just because it wasn't a love thing. I've had people ask me that, like, maybe it was just love, because I've heard women say that about their abusers. Well, I just loved him and I thought he would change. I didn't love him. We were like, when I met him, he was just supposed to be a one night stand. I had a daughter already, and I was trying to do the right thing, get my life together, whatever. And then this guy, he's kind of handsome and he thinks I'm cute. He knows I got a kid, and back then, and I think still now, when you have a kid, you're kind of like tainted goods, like nobody's ever gonna want you anymore because you've got it to this kid, and so he thought I was cute, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go, dust the coochie off a little bit, I have a good time. And that's what it was supposed to be, just a one night stand. But then the condom broke, I got pregnant, and again, religious family, I didn't want another baby daddy. So I was like, okay, let me see if I can make this situation into a relationship, and then I could just get out of my dad's house and whatever. But he had other plans in mind. I didn't know he was an aspiring pimp, and he was looking for someone like me at the time when he found me.
So the pimp is also the father of your kids?
One of my children.
One of your children.
Yeah,
okay.
one of my children. So I had one from a previous relationship, and then one with a pimp, and then one is from a rape, from a customer raped me. And
oh God.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just all over the place. I know, yeah.
Traumatic life you've had.
All of my own making. all of my own making. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
The things that we think about, the things that I thought I deserved, which kept me there longer than I should have been. And I wouldn't have had to go through all of the trauma that I went through. But maybe I wouldn't have met John either.
Right.
You know? So. Wow. Okay, so yeah, let's get back to the story. Where was I anyways? Okay, so we're in Portland. We're living in Portland. We're having this sort of life. And I'm, doing my best to adjust to being in the house all the time. I'm going out and shopping. John's allowing me to do that. Oh, by the way, before I get too deep in that, when I came back from Miami, John called the pimp, or the pimp called me, and he's like, and I'm like, you can't call me anymore. I don't want to be with you anymore. Like, it's over. It's done. Whatever. And so, he's kind of like yelling, and we're going back and forth. And then John's like, give me the phone. And so I gave John the phone, and he's like, listen, she doesn't want to be with you anymore. Like, this is, it's done, whatever. And so the next thing I hear John say is that, okay, well, if you come here, you will leave here in a body bag. And then John's like, well, no, it's not a threat. I'm just telling you what's going to happen if you decide to come here. And so I could hear the pimp yelling and all of the things. So the phone call ends, and that's done, right? So we're done. And so again, fast forward, living life. John's in and out of town. He's, got his flavors of the week. I'm getting bored. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get a job. Like, I need something to do, right? And I'm not working anymore. Like, I'm not a prostitute anymore. So that's not a thing. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just get a job at Forever 21 or something. Like, just to, and I can get clothes, whatever. And he's like, no wife of mine is going to be working. And like, you can't do that. You're with John McAfee. That's not allowed. And so I'm like, okay. So then I asked for a dog, and he's like, okay, we'll go to the shelter. We'll go pick out a dog. But this had been like months now have passed. And so then I went and looked online, and I was like, I want a cute little Yorkie dog. Yeah. So I paid. So I sent the money to do it. And he's like, and when he found out about it, he was a little pissed. And he was like, what is this? I was like, I told you I wanted a dog. Like, I want someone here, companion, whatever. And so he's like, okay, we'll get your money back, and I will take you to the shelter, and we'll go get a dog. So we actually did that, and that's how we got Tequila, who was our red-nosed pit bull. I probably should have shared pictures of our dogs. But anyways, Tequila was the first dog that we got. And I remember we went to the shelter, and we went and we were kind of interacting with her, and then he walked away. So then I was getting ready to walk away, and she came, and she's like crying at the door of the cage, and I was like, oh. So he's like, okay, so she picked us, so we're gonna take her home. But I was definitely afraid of big dogs, pit bulls in particular. So when we had to bring her home, it was me by myself, and so I was so nervous. And she was sitting in the front passenger seat, and John, he had the pickup truck, so she's got her front paws on the middle console, and she's like right here in my face, and she's just staring at me, and there's traffic. I remember there's like bumper to bumper traffic, so I can't get her out of the car or anything. I don't know what she's about to do. So it's like, hi, remember, you're my friend, and we're just going home now to, and everything's gonna be cool. And she kind of was like looking like side-eyeing, kind of watching where I was driving, but I had no idea what she's gonna do. I was so scared of her. And so then I got her home, and when she finally went to sleep, I just was like whispering in her ear, like, I love you and you're my friend. And I made up this stupid song, sung it to her just to kind of work my nerves through. And I think that's how we became friends. So anyways, the dog's there. And so in this boredom, John left, he would have some cash in his dresser drawer on his side of the bed. So I remember taking the money out and taking a picture of it. It was like $10,000, just to kind of show that I'm still living a good life, right? Just to kind of show off for other hoes that might have known, my story, and for the pimp as well. Yeah.
Right.
So that didn't go over very well with John either. And then my daughter had a birthday party, and I wanted to show that off as well. So I did, was kind of posting about that because I wanted, because the the idea was that John was just using me and I was getting played, like this,
Right.
I was getting played by a trick, and, I'm just went dummy over this trick, and I'm going to get played and end up with egg on my face. And so I just wanted to show that was not the case. I put a picture of my car up there and, money, and, I'm still living high on the hog, if you will. Yeah.
Right.
And so, so then John had this one woman who had come over to our house. And so she didn't want me in the apartment, and they were kind of fighting, I guess, about me or whatever. And so John decides that he's going to kick me out. So he kicks me out. But this also has to do with, I think, because I was like showing signs of maybe going to go back into that lifestyle, because I'm posting these pictures. I'm trying to find out what's going on. I'm talking to the hoes that I used to work with and all of these things. So maybe for John, he's like, okay, let me just cut this off before it becomes a bigger issue. And so he kicked me out with the dog. And I ended up calling one of my clients, who was like a regular, to send me some money so I could get a hotel. And I was able to have a hotel for a couple nights. Then I got the brilliant idea that I would reach out to the pimp and have him send me some money, and then I would just fly back to California to my family. And so instead of the pimp sending me money, he sends me a gentleman named Francois, who he comes and he pays me. We do, conduct business. He pays me. And afterwards he says, so I know that you know John McAfee, you're with John McAfee, and, the pimp has, I'm here because, we're going to have a meeting, and I just want to talk, about some things that, and he was like, well, I don't want to get into it, but we'll talk about it, at the meeting with the pimp or whatever. And I'm like, again, pretending I don't know who John McAfee is. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, okay, well, just know that your pimp is, he's arranged this. So, we're going to have a meeting, whatever. And so fast forward to the meeting, there was my pimp there. There was a pimp from Portland and then another pimp from California. Okay. And so they're physically in the room, and then Francois is on the phone, and he begins to talk about how he's a representative for the cartel, and they are wanting me to be sort of their inside person, giving them information about John.
What cartel?
The Sinaloa cartel.
Okay. Mexican guy? Francois.
He's not Spanish, no. He Argentinian.
Oh, okay.
Say that? Argentinian,
okay.
Yeah, and Canadian. So, in this meeting, okay, so as it works in the pimp world, right? When a hoe is around other pimps, you're to be seen and not heard, right? And so I immediately was like, well, I'm not doing any of that crap. Like, but I'm speaking out loud. Like, I'm not doing none of this. Like, I don't know what y'all talking about. I'm not going to be telling y'all anything about that. Like, this man ain't who you think he is, so I'm not going to give you any information. And so, eventually my pimp made me go in the bathroom because I wouldn't shut up about it. And so when I came out of the bathroom, it was the California pimp that threatened me directly, and he was like, if this bitch snitches, I'm killing her and her family.
It's like a pimp network. I love Matt Cox during your podcast. Like, is there like a network, a global pimp network?
Oh my goodness! But this gentleman is pretty famous. Well, he was at the time. A
famous pimp.
Yeah, his hoe was the hoe that got caught up with Hugh Grant when he was arrested way back in the, what was it, 80s or 90s or something?
Oh, really?
When before Hugh Grant was the guy.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So he had gotten caught up with a prostitute in the car, and she was a prostitute. So that was her pimp. And and this was, I guess, the mentor of my pimp. Yes. There she is there.
That's her?
Yeah, that's her.
It looks a little bit like Michael Jackson, no? Is it just me?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that happened. Anyway, so this gentleman, and so this was my concern.
Minus the Adam's apple.
Yes, minus the apple. And so this was a big concern for me. Not necessarily the cartel, but the pimps because my parents had lived in the same home for over 30 years. They had the same routine. My children went to the schools that I went to. Like, there was nothing different about them, their routine. So they were easily findable.
Yeah.
Easily could have paid anybody to just go shoot up their house, and they could have all been dead, you know? So, so fast forward, I don't know how it happens, but I think John reached out to me because, again, assuming and knowing that I'm being watched and listened to, he probably would have known of this meeting.
Right.
And so he reaches back out to me, and he comes to the hotel. And I remember he's like checking under the bed, checking
right
in
afterwards.
the closet. Not right after, maybe a day later.
Okay.
And so I was like, nobody's here. And he was like, okay, okay. So now, but he's on guard. There's this he's really on guard. And so I'm like, okay, crap. But what am I going to say to him? What am I going to say to him that he's going to believe? What could I possibly say? So I said nothing. And we, said our apologies about whatever. And we went back to our apartment, as though nothing happened. And, but this Francois gentleman was someone that John was working with closely at the time, because they were trying to do a documentary as well, and then also trying to work on a film. They were working on a script for a film that they were wanting to do as well, while also working with Chad doing the graphic novel about John's story. So this was all happening, and so I remember just Francois being around. It just made me really, like, I just didn't know what to do. Right, I couldn't tell John what was happening, because I felt like if I said something, then it could maybe get back to him. Right, because he came into our apartment one day and he set up our cable or something. He set up, and I made the assumption that he was putting like something to spy on us in the house. And John's letting this happen. So John, understand this, that John knew everything that was happening. There's no way that he didn't know. But he was allowing it to happen, to play out. Why? I don't know. Maybe to understand maybe the Francois connection and who he was connected to, and finding out all the tentacles there. But then also just trying to see what I was going to do, where I was going to land. Because obviously he could have just cut it off. We could have just ended our situation. But then there would have just been another girl moved in, right? And so I think he was willing to just suffer with the devil that he knew, right? As opposed to, And so, so over time, the request shifted from giving information about, where he is, who he's with, who he's traveling with, what sort of guns we have in the house, to wanting me to, I was given a substance at one point in time and told to put it in his food. They were asking me to park his car, his truck in a certain area, or like on the street, so that it can be accessed, because we had a parking garage, and so I would park it in there. And so I would tell John, listen, when I'm not here, because I often traveled back to see my kids in California for summer break, for Christmas break, just spending time with them as much as I could. So when I would go, I would tell them, don't drive by yourself, have somebody else drive. Don't park the car on the street, park it in the parking garage. Just to not to so I never told him why. I just told him, hey, protect yourself from these things, And I remember I was supposed to, because again, I said that I was given a substance, but I didn't throw it away, which I probably should have immediately. I'm not sure why I didn't. But I remember stuffing it like in my dresser drawer and just hiding it, because what happened the day it was given to me, I just went out. I was supposed to be going to 7-Eleven, and the pimp was out, calling me and wanting me to come meet him. So I did that, and I went back straight to our apartment. So I didn't want to stop somewhere and then be seen, anyways. This was just my thinking process. And so I remember we were going to eat dinner together, and I was waiting for John because we were going to cook together. That's what we always did. But he was busy on the phone, and so I was hungry, so I decided to go ahead and cook anyways. And when he came out of the bedroom after his phone call, he kind of just stood there in the doorway and was like, "Oh, you cooked?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." And he's like, "Okay." And so he's like, he comes to the stove and he's watching me while I'm, kind of preparing our plates. And I was like, "Well, do you want me to make your plate or you want to make your own? Like what?" And he was like, "No, you go ahead and make it." So it's like, okay. So, I showed him, I'm stirring it up just to let him see I'm not digging from a specific spot, it's just, and it was some broccoli chicken and noodles I made or something. And I remember he took some of the noodles and he started throwing it to our dog, Tequila. And he later told me he did that because he knew if there was something in there that I would have said something because I love the dog and I wouldn't let it, want the dog to be hurt. So this is going on. And then fast forward to about July-ish of 2013, the Belizean soccer team comes to play soccer in Portland, Oregon, as a part of some tournament that was happening, right? And so John finds out this information. I guess somehow gets the flight log of who all was on the flight. And when they left, when the team left, not everyone that arrived left with them. So, now in our neighborhood, so we were living on 20th and Hawthorne at the Hawthorne on 20th, I think is the name of the apartment building. Anyways, so this is where we were. But in this neighborhood, I was the blackest person that lived there. Now, there were people that would come to the shops and things, but no one that looked like me. So when we started seeing people that looked like me kind of just milling around, loitering, if you will, in our area, like there was a thrift shop across the street from our apartment building. And so people would be like just loitering around there, not really doing anything. There was a pizza shop across the street from us, and people would just be sitting there for hours and hours and hours. So obviously there was something happening. And I assumed that whatever was happening was related to whatever my pimp was involved in, right? And so fast forward then to September 12th-ish, I believe it was, there was a report, a news story that came out online that John had overdosed in a Vegas hotel and he was dead. And so he was getting phone calls from people that knew him, obviously, just to see if he was okay. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I think it was like an Irish publication, or maybe the woman was Irish that wrote the story. Anyways.
Weird.
But it is still online. But there were a few of those things, so maybe it might be difficult to find it. Anyways, back to the story. So that happened. And then prior to this, after the Belizean soccer team came to play, we actually had live-in security. John hired this biker and his girlfriend to kind of be like our live-in security and our security, just to, take us around town and be with us. And so they were living with us. So the gentleman was arrested not long after that story had come out, right? And so now we're without security. And so fast forward maybe a couple of days, I can't think of the exact date, but it was definitely before John's birthday, but around his birthday, because all of these things seem to happen around his birthday. I think it was like a calling card of these people, of whoever, because there was always something happening around his birthday, which is why he hated his birthday. He hated his birthday very much. And so anyways, one night after our security is arrested, one night John and I were binge watching Family Guy, and we lived on the 4th floor of our apartment, and it sat like a L. And so we could see all the main roads, right? We could see all of that. And I saw a truck pull up to the lamppost, which is in between the pizza shop that I told you about across the road from us. And then there was an old movie theater there. So there's this lamppost there. And this gentleman pulls up in a white pickup truck, and he gets out, and he's wearing like a construction worker vest. And he flashes his flashlight down our street 4 times. And so I pointed out to John. I was like, hey, this guy just, flashed his flashlight. And so the person did it again. And so now John's on high alert. He's like, okay, turn off all the lights, turn off the TV. And he's up watching. He's got his binoculars. He's looking, he's listening. He's going from, the living room to the second bedroom that we have, kind of watching and listening. And he's, he swore that he heard something. He was like, do you hear a motorcycle idling? I was like, no, I don't hear shit. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm obviously concerned, but I'm not putting it together like he is. Again, because I'm assuming whatever's going on had to do with the pimp, but the pimp has not told me of anything happening. So obviously nothing could be happening in my mind. That's what I'm thinking. And so I eventually go and lay down in our bedroom, and I guess I fell asleep, obviously, because he comes at about 2 a.m. He comes running in and wakes me up, and he says, listen, they're here. We got to go get dressed. And I'm like, waking up, like, what? Who's here? What are you talking about? And he said, we got to get dressed. We got to move. And he was like, listen, if you want to stay here, that's fine, but I have to go. So I'm leaving. And so I threw on something really quickly. And we run down to the opposite end of our hallway. We run down the stairs into the parking garage. And in the parking garage, the lights are motion detected. And so while we're running around, the lights are on, and John's trying to find somewhere for us to hide. We lived on top of a dental office, and there's also a coffee shop that was there as well. So he's trying to get into those doors, that are linked to to those businesses. There's also like storage areas in there as well, and so he's trying to find an open door for us to hide in, and everything was locked. So he goes into the trash room, and he's like, okay, we'll get in here, let's hide in here in the trash bin. I'm like, I'm not getting in there, that's nasty. So he turns the light off, and he's like, okay. And in the parking garage, the cars are set up on like an elevator system. So there was an underground level, main level, and then a higher level. So he said, okay, can you climb up here and we'll hide under this vehicle. So we climb up there, we get under this car, and we're sitting there for like a few minutes, long enough for the lights to go off because they're motion detected. And maybe 5 minutes after we're sitting there, the lights come back on. You hear the click of the door unlock because you put the key fob, and it makes a very loud clicking sound. And then the lights come on, and they stayed on all night. But you don't hear anybody. You don't see anybody. You don't hear anybody walking. You don't hear anyone talking. But you can feel the movement. I don't know if that makes sense. You could just feel that there was movement in the room. Right, and obviously there was because the lights were on. And so there was a lot of chaos happening in the lobby. We could hear them. We could hear muffled people talking very loudly, though. You could hear people running up the stairs a little bit. It was just a lot of commotion. Whatever was happening, there was a lot of commotion. And outside, though, you could also hear there was a garbage truck idling that was out front and in front of our building. I mean, somewhere in front of the building, because I could hear it. And so what happened after maybe like 2 hours or so, the garbage bin was rolled out and taken to the garbage truck, and then you could hear the garbage truck doing its thing of lifting the bin up and then compressing the garbage, and then the bin was rolled back in. And then maybe like a half hour or so after that, you hear somebody very loudly in the lobby say, fuck. And then, things start to happen. The garbage truck drives off. There was one of our neighbors who John was suspicious of that had moved in across the hall from us. They had moved in not long after we had gotten new management. I think I forgot to add that in there. So we all of a sudden had gotten new management of our building about August of 2012, the same. So after the Belizean soccer team came to play, but before this attempt, there was a management change.
Did the building sell or something?
Yes, the building. Okay. I'm assuming it sold very quickly because we had Virginia one day, and then the very next day we had this new manager, right, who we never really saw. He was never really around much, which was very strange. I don't know if that's how things usually happen with that, but it was strange to me. So, okay, back to that night. So we're sitting there. Eventually, the lights go off, right? So the people have left now. And about 7 a.m, the manager comes in and he goes directly into the room where the surveillance cameras would have been, the screens for the surveillance cameras. He stays in there for maybe a minute or two.
You guys are still under the car.
Yeah, we're still in the car. And then he goes back into wherever he goes, into the lobby, I'm assuming. And so maybe about 9 a.m. was when we finally got from under the car. John just wanted enough time to pass just to make sure it was safe to come out. So we go up the stairs, we get back into our apartment. I'm freaking out. He's like, just grab what you can and we'll we'll pack up our stuff. And he called the girlfriend of our security that was living with us, and he asked her to come travel with us as we're leaving. So she came and she met us. I'm assuming because there's just safety in numbers. It wasn't really for her to protect us or anything. But so we come down. As we're leaving, at the elevator, one of our neighbors comes out, an older lady who lives next to the elevator. And John's chit-chatting with her, how you doing this morning, whatever. And then he was like, well, did you hear anything strange happening last night? She was like, yeah, I was just going to go down and ask about that because I heard so much commotion last night. And she was like, I was wondering what was going on. There was like people running up and down the hallways, talking loudly, all of these things. And so...
Same floor as you, she lives on?
Yeah, same floor, 4th floor. And so we go down, we're in the lobby. The manager doesn't see us because he's, speaking to the lady. And then we come from behind him and he sees us and his face goes white, like all the blood is drained from his face. Almost like, what are you guys still doing here? And so I just thought he would say, because John asked him, what was there anything strange that was happening last night? And I assumed he was going to say, yeah, you guys were running around like crazy people in our parking garage. But, he didn't even say that, But
the security cameras would have seen you, right?
Yeah, yes, for sure. And so it was just really strange. And I should also add really quickly, after we had left from there, John had sent him an email because he basically accusing him of being a part of whatever was happening and that he was going to the FBI and he has all this evidence. And he said, yeah, and just so you know, I had cameras installed into the elevator. So we've got everything, right? And
my God.
We had our security, who is now out of jail, the same gentleman, the couple, and they were packing up our stuff for us to ship it to us. We were now in Colorado Springs, and they were going to ship it to us, bring my car and all the things. And so he said one of the days while they were there packing up our stuff in the elevator, it had been stripped down. The panels had been stripped out of the elevator.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
We're looking for these cameras or whatever. So,
wow.
So, yeah. So this was very eye-opening for me, that whatever the pimp was into, this had nothing to do with him. And this was way higher than there was heavy money involved and whatever had just happened. And so, I was sufficiently spooked.
Do you think the hotel was purchased specifically for this reason?
Apartment.
The apartment complex?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
I do. John believed that as well. He did a lot of digging. There was a story, news article story series that was being written by John Casaretto, who was kind of chronicling, am I saying that right? Whatever, John's findings, because obviously you follow the money, you find out what's going on.
Right.
So he had named some names and found out that it was definitely the Sinaloa cartel that was behind
the purchase.
Not the purchase, but that was behind the activity of what was happening. Us being followed and the attempt on him being collected. They also had police officers. I didn't see the motorcycle police, but John said that what pulled up was a black sedan, 2 cops on motorcycles, on police motorcycles, and then the garbage truck. So again, I didn't see any of that. I just heard the garbage truck idling in front of our building. So yeah, it was pretty spooky, and we left from there. We went to Utah. I'm not sure why. We stayed there for a little bit, and then eventually made our way to Colorado because John had friends there, and so I'm guessing also because he had once lived there, so it's familiar territory.
Right.
And we ended up purchasing our first house there, which was a double wide trailer, which was so freaking awesome. I love that house. It was so cool. It's the coolest house. It had a fireplace, and John taught me how to make a fire, and so it was just really cozy. And I had rooms for it was a 3-bedroom, so there was rooms for my children. You know, I had for my girls and for my son.
wow.
I decorated it. Yeah, you let me get furniture and decorate. You know, for an eventuality of maybe them coming. Like I thought we were really like setting up house and everything, but we eventually had to leave there as well. So, so in the meantime, the pimp is no longer a part of my situation, right? Because like I said, I'm scared. Right. So I'm not dealing with him anymore. We're not talking. It's been months and months since I last spoke to him. I'm a happy little homemaker, you know, in our house. John still got his flavors of the week and he's going here and there, whatever. We get married eventually in October. This is all in the same year. October of 2013 was when we got married the first time. John's doing interviews with Fox News, CBS, whoever is with the mainstream media. He's doing interviews at this time, not podcasts, but interviews with the mainstream media, just on various subjects, whatever hot topics are happening, right? I remember he did an interview about Edward Snowden when he was stuck at the airport or something in Russia. And so this is what, you know, our life was at the time. And John did a particular interview with Fox News. And when he was doing these interviews, he would always request that they not share where he was. Don't share the location. You know, he'd always make sure to ask that. And everyone honored that up until this last interview that we did while we were still in Colorado.
These are all over like Skype or something?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Well, actually, we were going into the Focus of the Family building in Colorado Springs, and they had a studio set up. So we would go there and do remotely the interviews. And so this newscaster, you know, as soon as he got on, he's like, oh, and we're here with John McAfee in Colorado Springs. So when that happened, you know, John's pissed, you know, just not pissed, but just pissed, whatever. Not pissed enough to do anything. So
right.
It's not a situation like that, but he's upset about it. And not long after that, things started happening in our neighborhood. And so he purchased a trailer that we kept in a trailer park, you know, I guess for this eventuality, because he was doing a lot of things that didn't make sense to me, but he wanted to have somewhere where we could have, you know, to go and hide out at. So the strange thing, the biggest strange thing I guess I could point out that happened was that when, you know, when you get on your Wi-Fi in your neighborhood, you know, it brings up all of the Wi-Fi that's in your area. And so a new Wi-Fi had popped up. It said FBI, something FBI, right? And so I don't know if that was actually the FBI or whatever, but it was just a very clear, you know, change. And then also, John decided that we would go and speak to the FBI, right? So I'm freaking out because I'm thinking like they're going to arrest me, you know, because I've done all these things. I'm thinking John's going in there to snitch on me and now I'm going to go to prison. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen, you know, so we go in there and he's telling this agent about, you know, his life and, you know, why he thinks people are after him and what's happened and all of the things. And then they asked me to leave the office. So I leave the office and I'm like, I'm sweating. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to prison. And I'm assuming it's because he's telling
right.
this agent about me, right? He just wasn't going to do it in front of me. And so, but we leave the office, right? And they come out and everything's like, okay, Mr. McAfee, you know, if anything happens, you know, we're here, whatever, you know, but they didn't take it seriously, I don't think, or maybe they did. And maybe, you know, I was then on being watched and, you know, monitored by the FBI. I don't know. But from the outside appearance, it didn't look like they were taking it seriously. So, so we're living our life. We're kind of moving around a little bit. But I remember there was a time I was there. John was out of town, and I just happened to go to the store. And when I came out of the store, my pimp was standing at my car. And so I'm super freaked out because how does he know where I am? Because I haven't spoken to him. the only people that know where I am that could maybe relate to him or he could find out through is my family, because I was sending like MoneyGram, Western Union for my kids for school supplies, whatever they needed. Yeah. So and still to this day, I don't understand how he found me, how he knew that I was at the store, right? And how he's at my car. And so I remember, because John had said not to give him any money, what I did was I took a necklace he had given me and I took it to the pawn shop, and to give him money, I said, you have to leave. You can't be here. You have to leave, like now. I don't know if I made him aware of the FBI situation or not, but I just needed him to get away from me, because I didn't want John thinking that I was, part of anything that was now happening, right? Because I'm still sufficiently very spooked. I don't know what's happening, even though we're living like seemingly normal life, there's still this threat over us. And so eventually we move and we're traveling. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to now another relevant part of the story, because there was just a lot that was happening in our normal regular life. There was I should mention this as well. There was a talk that John had done at CSSX or something in San Jose, and it was in the same year, 2013. He gave a keynote speech during there, and a woman from Belize had come, and because afterwards he's kind of meeting and greeting, shaking hands and things, and this woman comes and she says she's from Belize, and she hands him an envelope, a manila envelope, and there were some pictures in there of his properties or something. And so there was just these strange things that were always happening, people trying to give him drinks, or women trying to get him to come to their hotel room, giving key cards and all the things. So there was always a sense of danger, potential danger around us. And so I want to get to, we were in Denver. I'm not sure why we were in Denver, but I think because I was eventually about to fly out to California to see my kids, but I don't know why we were staying at the hotel. I think just because of everything that was happening since our location was outed. I think John just felt safer, getting some distance. And so we were there. There's like a kind of concentrated area of hotels. So we were at one of the hotels, and I remember there was like this road that went behind the hotels, and there was this pickup truck, because I was walking our dog Tequila, and this pickup truck was like stopping, going to this hotel, and then he would stop and sit for a little bit, and then he would move and stop and sit a little bit and move and stop. And so I told John about it, and he said he's trying to triangulate, could be possibly looking for us, was the assumption, obviously. And at this point, we weren't sure what was going on or how people were locating us, but it turned out to be the pickup truck. There was the low jack on the truck that we didn't realize. If someone steals your truck,
a tracker,
or if it's ever stolen, it could be found. So, I tell John about that, and then, I catch my flight to go to California, and he called me like later that evening, and he's like, listen, I'm hiding out in the parking garage because, something's going on, but I'll let you know, when I'm okay. And so eventually he made his way to California to me, and he was like, listen, we got to go because I've got people following me, and, it's not safe for you to be here with your kids. So we left, and, we made our way to Arizona, where the girlfriend of our security that was living with us in Portland, she came and met with us, as well as John Poole, who was John's head of security for over 20 years. And so they met up with us. They had a rental car. And so we got in the rental car, John, myself, and the girlfriend. And his head of security took the pickup truck. And he, figured out, obviously, it was the low jack. So he disabled it, whatever he needed to do that. And we went on about our way. But we were still being followed, in that area, in that general area of where, we thought we had lost people. And so, John and the girlfriend, they're chill. They're like, everything's fine. Nobody's following us anymore. And I'm like, no, you guys are wrong. Like, we're still being followed. and we've not lost, because we're kind of like still in the same area, in the general area of where people were like kind of following us on the highway. And when I say following, I mean like, cars would get behind us and, John would slow down, and slow down to like a ridiculously slow speed on the highway, like 30 miles an hour. And this car is still slowed down.
So they weren't being discreet. They were being obvious.
Yeah, they were being very obvious, but they were just spotters. There was no danger, immediate danger, right? They were just the spotters. Only.
Do you think that they were trying to intimidate John? Like, because they obviously it was clear, right? They weren't doing a very good job of being discreet. So do you think maybe they were just trying to intimidate him and scare him, let him know like you're being watched?
Yeah, possibly. And also maybe to just keep an eye until the danger could get there. Yeah. Right. Until the muscle of the heavies could get there and do what they needed to do. Right.
Right.
And so, like I said, I told John, people were still being followed. At the time, the girlfriend was driving. I said, okay, listen, I'll calm down if you get in the driver's seat, John. I need you to drive, because I knew he could handle himself behind the wheel. I said, I need you to drive and I'll be cool, And so we're driving and we're getting ready to, we were actually almost out of gas because the gas light was on. I told John, I said, we should probably get some gas. I said, because we're not, we're still being followed, so let's stop and get gas. He's like, no, we'll be fine. I was like, okay. I said, if this white pickup truck that you see right here at the stoplight, if it turns when we turn, then we're still being followed, okay? And so sure enough, that pickup truck turned with us. And so John still, he wants to make sure, so he does this thing. He slows way down. They slow way down. He speeds up. They speed up. So they're matching speed with us. Eventually, we get up to like over 100 miles an hour. We're in a Ford Focus, the little hatchback thing. And we're like sort of hydroplaning on the road because it was really crazy how fast we were going. Eventually, they slowed down, but we kept going at the same speed until we got into a town, because it was like a 2-lane highway, and you're now in between towns, right? And so eventually we slowed down. Once we got into town, we looked for a gas station, found one, and then we proceeded to leave town. But John was like, he was going slow, and I was like, hurry up, we need to get out of here. He's like, no, I got this now, and he's very slowly drove out of town just to not draw attention, and so we were able to get out of that situation, and we made it to Texas. And that's where his head of security met us again. John ended up shaving his beard off. And he looked so drastically different without his beard.
I've never seen him without the goatee.
Yeah. He was so insecure about it. I was like, it's fine. You got to do what you got to do.
Did he have a weak chin? Is that why he kept the goatee?
No, he didn't have a weak chin. Not at all. But I think it was just so much a part of his identity, that it just felt weird without it. And he shaved that because, I'm me, right? There's nothing I could do to look not like me, right? So you spot me, you're spotting him, right? Was the assumption. And so when we left the hotel room, we left separately. I came down first, so all of the people, you could see them, they're kind of watching me. They're looking now for John. Where's John? And so I went and get in the pickup truck, and John goes up to these people, assuming these are the people looking for us. And he's like talking to them in this country accent, what do you guys think about this Texas weather? It's really weird. And so, but they didn't pick up on it, and he came and got in the pickup truck and we left. Wow. And so we were able to get, out of that situation, and we ended up going to Tennessee, where his head of security was living. And so, should I just keep talking, or?
Yeah.
No questions?
No, this is amazing.
Okay, yeah. All right, cool. So, so we're in Tennessee. We're living now with his head of security, because it was just safer that way, while we got our bearings. And so, eventually, John decides that he wants us to get our own place, because if something were to happen, he didn't want to put John Pole's family in danger, right?
Right.
And so we started looking for places to live in that sort of immediate area. And the way that we found our place was we would go to the Walmart and see how people would react to John and I being together, because obviously it's the South. And
interracial is frowned upon.
Yes, we were at a Piggly Wiggly in Henderson, which is near to where the security lived, and they were not happy.
Oh yeah.
No, they were not happy, and they were not shy about letting us know how unhappy they were. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the litmus test. Go to the Walmart and see how people interacted with us. And so that's how we decided on Lexington, Tennessee, which is where we got our first house. And once we had moved in there, the pimp reaches out to me. And again, so I'm, same situation. Like, how are you getting my phone number? Like, how are you finding out this information? Because I wasn't assuming that the cartel were that deeply involved in trying to find me out anymore at this point. Because, John had, I wasn't doing the job, right? So I wasn't being of any help to them. I wasn't providing them with any actionable information, right? And so there was a concern for my safety, yeah. But maybe they did have the means to figure out, where I was and all of these things, but I wasn't contacting him, which was strange. And so anyways, he was in a house in Jackson, Tennessee, which was about 30 minutes north of where we were looking for a place. And I remember I went over to his house, and he, because he was threatening to come to where we were living. And I didn't know that he knew or how he knew where we were. But anyways, I went over to his house, and he's like, what's up? Where you been at? How come you haven't been calling, whatever, checking in, whatever? And I was like, because, I can't, like, all of these things that have happened have been going on, I'm not going to be in contact with you, right? There's too much happening now. Too much has happened now, and I'm in danger. And so, whatever, he didn't care about any of that. And so, he was planning, the plan was that they were going to do like a home invasion sort of thing on the house. And what I was supposed to do was leave the house and then call him to let him know that I wasn't in the house. So that would be their signal to go and storm the house, raid the house, whatever. What the plan was, I'm not exactly sure. Because you're not just raiding John McAfee's house. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not, like, so I don't again know what the plan was, how they were going to get in or what they were going to do, plan what they had planned to disable him or any of that. I wasn't sure. And so, so the day came, John and I had a fight. He picked a fight with me so that I would, leave just to see what I would do. But I didn't call the pimp. But I did leave. I was at a hotel, locally at a hotel. And I'm not sure what happened at the house, but something did go down at the house. And he had me brought back a couple of days later after that. I never spoke about whatever went down at the house.
How do you know something went down?
There was bullet holes.
Oh shit!
There was bullet holes, and mind you, some of those were put there prior to.
He just liked to shoot guns in the house.
Well, because he thought that there were people like in our crawl space. In our crawl space, I mean, it was large enough for someone to hide under there, and there was access to the crawl space directly under our bedroom window.
Yeah, in the documentary, he was shooting guns inside the boat, just like shooting, like firing off rounds in the boat in the middle of the night.
That's crazy. That's not actually what happened. He fired it off into a bucket full of sand because he wanted to make sure that the pin was still in the gun. He wanted to make sure it's still fired.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he wasn't just, obviously, he would have sank the boat.
A bucket full of sand?
Yeah, he would sank the boat. Yeah, so.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, and in a little context for that was not long after he had, so when we left the States, John had his security, the security that was working for him at the time, go back and close out his bank account. So they came back to the Bahamas with $500,000 in cash. I saw it. Though everybody knew that he had this money.
From where they get it?
From his bank accounts.
In Belize?
No, in America. Okay. They shut down his bank accounts in America.
Okay, let's go. Let's explain that transition. So how do you get from where we're at in Tennessee
I'm sorry. Oh, because I skipped a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So how does he get from there to what made him and you decide to leave the country?
Okay. All right. So let's see here. So he runs for president. So that was a really cool
he ran
time.
for president.
Yeah,
What year was that? Was 2016?
Yeah, he ran for president 2016. It was really cool, actually. So on the campaign trail 2015.
And what was the purpose of that? What was his thinking?
To make it more difficult for people to kill him.
So did he get Secret Service?
No, he didn't get Secret Service, but...
Did he try?
No, he didn't try. But the thing is that it would be very difficult for him to just disappear when he's supposed to be, on the campaign trail, right? Because he's now campaigning, right?
Right.
And so that was the idea. There was also an idea that was floated about of us doing like a reality show for the same reason, right? We would be safe, we have cameras. How can anyone do anything,
right,
with that going on? So that was one of the main reasons for running for president, was for his own safety. And really cool time. So we're
Did he, during any of this time where you guys are living together and doing all this stuff, like how often was he on his computer doing like spying type stuff?
Not
or
on
like
his computer.
Because he noticed, I mean, he said before on camera that he could hack the White House computers, hack the military computers. He could get access to anyone's computer or phone whenever he wanted. How real is that, do you think?
I'm sure he had ways. I'm sure he had means. So just really quickly, as it relates to the cartel. Yeah. So when I would go and see my children, there was times where I was being followed by clearly cartel operatives. So much so that my son eventually noticed it. And he was like, that person's following us, Mom. Because I would tell them, to just be aware of your surroundings, right? To just keep your eyes open for anything. Not telling them why, but just, giving them an education on how to stay safe, And so I remember John actually there's a video on this on YouTube of John calling the head of the cartel, the Sinaloa cartel at the time, which was a man named John Zabane.
John who?
John Zabane.
Zabane?
Yes.
Okay.
And so this was during, I think, the time when El Chapo was on the run. I think the first time when he was on the run, I think so.
Okay.
And so, John makes this phone call. He reaches out to this person, but before he does, he's like, he's going to be freaked out because he's just got a new phone. He's just got a new phone. It's a new number. He hasn't used it. He hasn't called anyone on it. So I'm going to be the first one to call him. And so, they're in the video, he's speaking to Mr. Zabane, and he's like, John's saying to him, I don't appreciate, people are following my wife, and, I don't appreciate that. And, Mr. Zabane is saying, I don't know who that is. It's not me. We're not, I don't know. And so he's like, well, find out who it is and make it stop. This is the general idea of what the conversation went. So as far as hacking into something, I don't know. But obviously he knew things. He knew ways to get a hold of people that he needed to get a hold of when he needed to. So it's believable, could he actually do it? I don't know, but I've seen him, like I just explained that whole conversation with Mr. Zabane, very plausible, but if he said he could do it, I don't think he would just be bragging, or just saying something just to say it, he wasn't that type of person,
Did he ever talk to you about like any sort of like crazy special information that he had on people, or like that he knew about anyone, like politicians or leaders or like big shots that like he was able to get on their computers or read their emails or anything weird like that?
Not specifically in that way, but that there was a lot of politicians that were named in the information he had collected, like as far as like with money laundering and nefarious, as he would have described it, activities. So there was a lot of...
In Belize?
Yeah, and that information. There was a lot of that, but never anything specific that he ever mentioned to me. No, not in that sense. The only other sense that I would say is when he was on the run in Belize, when all of this was happening, he tried to go to the embassy, and he was told that from the highest level that he was not allowed to seek refuge in the embassy. He was turned away. And so the highest level would have been Hillary Clinton at the time, because she was the Secretary of State. I think I'm not naming this right. She was somehow connected to
Belize?
No, but she was the highest authority in which he could have been denied in entering into or seeking asylum in the embassy in the American Assembly.
The American Embassy?
Embassy, yes.
In Belize.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So this is what, but I mean, that is someone that he has named in that regard.
Hillary Clinton.
You know, that she probably would have been the one to deny him refuge.
Did he ever did he ever speculate why? Is there a reason she wouldn't like him?
He never spoke about it, no.
No?
But I would imagine, I mean, it's Belize. I would imagine that there's a lot of wealthy people, politicians, you know, around the world, American as well, that probably do very nefarious things in that area of the world, or funnel funds through that area of the world. And so I would imagine he was able to get the goods on a lot of people who are probably still in power now, you know?
Did he ever say anything about Epstein to you?
Yeah, we talked about it. Well,
Really?
I mentioned earlier about his feet being on the floor. Right. When I said that John's feet were on the floor, and it was because that's what brought that to mind, because John was talking about that, you know, that his feet would have been on the floor, and so how could he have died from suicide? Also,
John never met him?
I don't think he said that he had. I don't think I ever asked him that though either. But he didn't believe the stories about the women, because for some reason he thought that Jeffrey was gay.
What?
Yeah.
McAfee thought Jeffrey Epstein was gay.
Yeah. And so he didn't think that it was plausible that I don't know. That's
weird.
I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more things about Mr. Epstein. I don't know. You know, John's information is usually not wrong. Not usually. So
yeah.
So I don't know what.
Again, these people that are stalking you guys and trying to take John out or whatever, like, do you know if John had any sort of like a dead man switch? Did he ever come to you and be like, look, if I turn up dead, this is where you find the info?
That never happened.
No,
he would have never, because well, for one, because of our relationship, right? How we met, the pimp, all of that. Even though that ended officially, it did actually end, you know, and I did eventually come clean to him about it, but for that reason, obviously. And then also because I would be in very real danger,
sure,
you know, because obviously the assumption, even after he was dead, that was the assumption, because there was an attempt on my life after he had died. So, and someone just trying to, you know, tie up loose ends, and I was a loose end. And so,
wow,
the assumption would have been that I would have had it or had access to it or know how to get it, you know. But I will say, after he died, it was strange. There was a report that he had a condo in this building that collapsed in Miami.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a story of a condo. I think you can find it.
I remember when that building collapsed.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not sure if he had a condo there, but the timing was interesting, because I think it was maybe a day or two after John was it was announced that John was dead.
Wow.
And then another interesting thing about that was, why would they bring in an Israeli excavation team to excavate? You know, why wouldn't you? Like, were they stationed here in Miami or there in Miami, and they were just on hand?
Israeli excavation team for that building?
Yeah.
Can you find that, Steve?
For that site, yeah. It's super strange.
Yeah, John was in that interview with Shane Gillis saying that they hired Mossad agents to protect him.
I don't know.
He's like, yeah, I hired a Mossad.
I don't know.
Wild. And he
a lot of things Sean would just not share with me.
Yeah.
But a lot of things, because I wanted to know, a lot of things I just paid attention, and I was able to deduce, if you will, kind of what was happening. But as far as things being above my pay grade, that's what he would tell me. Not it's above my pay grade. Like if I would ask a question spot on, if I would ask something too much, he would tell me to stay in my lane. That was actually something I gave him, because I would talk to him about all sorts of things, and I ask him things, or he'd say something, and yes.
Israeli rescue team head at Florida building collapse says not giving up hope. Zoom in.
So like they were helping to dig these people out.
Right.
An Israeli rescue team. The head of the team of the Israeli search and rescue specialists working at the site in Florida apartment building that partially collapsed last week said Tuesday that there was still hope of pulling people out alive, even though nearly 6 days had passed since the condo tower crumbled to the ground. Whoa.
Okay, that's very noble of them.
Yes.
But did they come from Israel? Like, were they flown over
that's
from
strange.
Israel?
Why was it in Israel? Well, there's a lot of Israelis in South Florida. It's kind of like Jerusalem 2.0.
Okay, fair enough. So maybe they were just living there, and they wanted to help out. Okay.
See, okay, there it is. It says Medications and Other Aid notes that several of the 32 Jews missing have Israeli connection. So there was Jews in the apartment building.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
fair enough.
They look out for their people.
Okay.
Tight-knit community.
That's good stuff.
Especially in South Florida.
Okay, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just something that I thought was strange. Okay, well, thank you for clearing that up.
You never know. There could be a spooky link there, but
yeah, possibly.
But it might be a stretch. Who knows?
But yeah,
probably
is a stretch.
he runs for president.
Yeah.
Obviously, he does not get elected.
Right.
And then what makes him want to leave the country?
So we are moving around. I think it was just for safety, because we ended up moving houses again in Tennessee after that house that got shot up. We moved again, and there were just people that were kind of milling around our house. It was just really weird. We lived on a cul-de-sac, so we would always have people just coming and driving, and maybe it's just people, fans, wanting to, catch a snippet of John McAfee. But there was also this lore that was going around that we had booby traps in our property on our yard, and so people were, all of these things that were being said. But it was just, things were just getting more intense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was an attempt on John. Well, maybe I should not say an attempt, but actually, there was an attempt. So this was summertime of 2017. Now, I may not have the dates exactly correct. It was 2017, I believe it was. And we were staying at a home on Hatteras Island. We were kind of spending our summer there. Just
North
kind
Carolina?
of house hopping. Hatteras, I don't know why. But that's where John chose. And so I was again going to California to see my kids, and we had Jimmy who was working for us, who was head of security, Jimmy Watson. He was someone that was arrested as well. I think Matt had him on his podcast. And so he was John's head of security at the time. He was taking me and his wife to the airport. She was flying out, going somewhere else. And so John was by himself at home. And when he... So after all of this happened, and I got to the hospital to him, and he was able to tell me what happened. This is what he tells me happened. So he went out on the boat with some of the people that were there at the house, and he came back, and the last thing he remembered was someone handing him a drink, and he drank it, and then the next thing he remembered was him waking up in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And so when Jimmy got back to the house from dropping off his wife, he said that the house was completely dark. None of the lights were on. Nobody was answering. He was calling out to the people that he knew was there in the house. And looking for John. He didn't find John. And eventually he went into our bedroom to see where John was, and he found him on the floor. And he had vomited, and he was convulsing, I believe he said. And so they had him, obviously had to call 911, and they had him actually flown out to another hospital in North Carolina. And So what John said, what happened was he showed me something on his foot where he thought he was injected with something, and so someone was obviously trying to kill him, is what was believed, and so he spent a few days in the ICU and everything, and I eventually made it back to North Carolina, where they had him on a ventilator, and so the doctor's telling me, if you take him off this ventilator, he's gonna die. Right, because he needs this for his oxygen. And so I remember asking the nurse, I said, okay, can you explain these numbers to me? Like, which number is his oxygen? And she's like, it's right here. And I was like, well, so what? So it's at a 90. So what is that? Like, that's, and she's like, well, no, that's fine. Like, he doesn't really need to be on the ventilator. And so I'm like, okay, so let's take him off the ventilator. Like, what are we talking about? And so in the process, John has written down, my name is John McAfee. I'm a sound body and mind, and I want to be removed from the ventilator because I guess they had been going back and forth about this before I got in there. Because Jimmy said that John had said to him, if, when I get there, I'm gonna have it removed. Janice will do it.
Yeah.
So anyways, they remove him off the ventilator, and so that happens. We're back in Tennessee for a little bit, and there was just a lot of things that were happening and keeping us, on guard. And it was just very dangerous time at the time. So again, back to why he decided to leave the country was after. So Jimmy, this is during Team McAfee. John's doing all the crypto things. We're traveling around the world. Yeah. He's going and doing keynote speeches. And Jimmy, I don't know what happened exactly to Jimmy, but there was a decline in him that was happening like over the course of a few months. He explained it on Matt's podcast that he thought he was drugged or something. But again, for me watching on the outside, there was a steady decline. Something was going on with him, not sure what. And then it culminated in one night where he got into an argument or something with his wife, and she came upstairs and she said, I'm really concerned about Jimmy. He's acting strange. He's talking about, hurting himself, hurting me, and whatever. But the concern was that he was armed, right? And we have an ex-Navy SEAL who is armed and who's not in their right mind. And so, Jimmy, I don't know what happens, but he spends the night like in the sand or something. And so this was a big blow for John because he really felt safer when Jimmy was around. He could relax, he could breathe and be at ease. And so Jimmy went and was checked into a facility, and whatever was worked out. And then John had gotten word from the attorney that he had in Tennessee that there was a grand jury convened, and that he, I guess, just that there was a grand jury convened. And so obviously the assumption then is that they're going to come and arrest him. And so that's why, for taxes. For tax fraud, I think it was the charge. But but which was actually because the only way you commit fraud is when you lie, right? So, but he wasn't filing taxes, so how could there have been fraud? Without, you have to file and have to be trying to not disclose your assets or hide things. But if you're not filing at all, how is there fraud there? So I don't know. But this is why.
It's definitely, it's illegal to not file, right?
Right. Of course it is. Of course.
It's just not fraud. It's not the right word.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm nitpicking. Yes. Yeah. But this was also not something that was unknown to them. John said that he would send an email, write a letter, and let them know, like, I'm not filing my taxes, and this is why, and he talked about it often, right? And so obviously they could have come and audited him, or they could have come and seized his property, seized, bank accounts, all of the things, but that never happened.
Was he making money at this point? Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, he was?
He was making money with the various, well, he was being paid in with the coins of the various projects,
crypto stuff.
Yeah, with the various crypto projects he promoted, he was being paid in tokens, and then there was maybe like for tweets. If he put a tweet out, that he was paid for the individual tweet marketing.
Got it.
So and then also, he's giving his keynote speeches, and so there was payment for those as well. So, so yeah, that's how he was making money, and that's why we eventually left, because it was just too dangerous to continue to stay, and also because of the charges that were coming down through the grand jury.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pressure from all angles. This guy just truly does not give a fuck.
And I will say that I wasn't the only one that was, I was obviously threatened to work in collusion with, whatever. But I wasn't the only one. There was a lot of people that were brought in who were either paid or threatened or had their own ideas of what they wanted to get out of the situation. But something that people didn't understand about John was that John was he was playing a role. Yeah, and he was very good at it. He was extremely good at it. But I mean, I'm sure people will swear to you that he was a drunk and a drug addict. And he did drink. Yeah, he did drink. He has his mixology videos that he would put, and he'd mix these crazy drinks that would be all alcohol and, usually very little of anything else. But no one saw behind the scenes that he never really drank those drinks. Like if you didn't see him in the video drink all of it, then it just sat. It didn't, and he didn't drink it. And no one in the house noticed that. Yeah. Right? And then also you have to factor in there would be days sometimes where John would not sleep, and when nighttime would hit, all the lights would have to be off in the house, and he'd be in the windows watching, listening. This happened one time in particular in North Carolina. When we officially moved there, we moved into a house called the Love Boat on Hatteras Island. It looked like a boat. It was really cool. It's a cool house. And so it was after I had returned from one of my trips to California. I get back, and the security, they're like, Miss Janice, oh my gosh, like John has been at this for like 2 days now, and he's like, we've not been able to sleep. He's been up all night. Like, we don't know what's going on. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, like what's going on. So I talk to John, and I'm like, okay, listen guys, just let him do what he needs to do, right? If you let him do it and you don't interfere and you don't impede him, then he'll, whatever it is that he needs to work through, he'll work through it, and he'll figure out that nothing's happening. But what it was the dogs. We had, by this time we still had Tequila, but we also had a Commodore named Marley, white dog. And then we had 2 German Shepherds, a brother and sister named Axel and Duchess. So they were being triggered by something, right? So every night, like clockwork, why he was bothered was that they were barking at something over our back deck. And so, the day after, I get there, I get back. John, he fires his gun into the driveway down on the ground, right? And so then early that morning, like maybe 5 or 6 in the morning, these guys come walking down the driveway now. And they're like, listen, please don't shoot. We're just here to get the vehicles. They were there to repossess the vehicles because they were in one of the security's name, and he got salty and he wanted to repossess the vehicle. So he sent these people, and that's what they were trying to do. And so they were there. They were the ones that were triggering the dogs to bark. Oh, okay. And so, I explained to them, I was like, listen, usually there's 9 times out of 10, there's nothing happening. Nothing's going on. But if you just let him work through whatever he needs to work through, he'll settle down on his own, But he lived through some things. So if something's triggering him, then he just needs to work through that trigger, whatever, until he can say in himself, not someone telling him, everything's cool. He'll figure it out on his own and he'll settle down. But I was like, see, this is the point, right? It was not something dangerous, but there was someone out there, right? So you just got to let him do what he's going to do. Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So super, super crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also so crazy that
intense.
He was so driven to document all this stuff and constantly working on projects to make movies and documentaries and graphic novels and get his life out there, like on film or on paper some way or another, one way or another.
I don't know if you've read the John McAfee tapes. It's by Mark Eglinton. He wrote a book. So what happened while we were in Spain, John reached out to, was just trying to find someone to write his biography. It's supposed to be a biography. And so he reached out to Mark, and they worked over the summer of 2020. They would speak regularly for hours at a time, and John would just share a lot of the.
This is the ghostwriter from the documentary?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. That was a different ghostwriter.
Okay.
Who actually just didn't. He just didn't fit. He wasn't the right fit. Which I'm surprised why he had all of those other things to say. It was just, I guess, just trying to sell whatever book he had written. But anyways, no, this was someone else who John liked very much, and he shared a lot of his life, intimately with him as well, because he wanted a book written. And so, what happened was when John died, obviously it couldn't be autobiography anymore. But what he did was he took the tapes that he had recorded of their conversations, and he made a book out of that. So it's kind of cool to read it, sort of from John's perspective what was going on, because there's a lot of interesting tidbits in the book that didn't make it in the documentary. And if you want to know from John McAfee's mouth, from his words, from his perspective, what his life was like and why he felt like he was in danger and why people were after him, all of the things, you should read that book, the John McAfee tapes. It's really, really good.
Is it on audio?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure, actually, but it's a
Wow.
really good book, though.
Crazy. Such a crazy story.
I know, right? And it's just so wild to have lived through that. And I'm not really touching like the surface of all the things, but just trying to give, interesting things that did happen over the time.
And we have a mutual friend.
Do we?
We do. Okay. He was on this podcast a couple of years ago, and he is a guy who was in prison in Spain, and they were trying to extradite him here.
Okay.
He owned a bunch of real estate here, and he was like smuggling tons of marijuana.
Yes, so we have a mutual friend, David Mendoza.
David Mendoza. Yeah, he's great. So I guess he was trying to. I don't know if he was working with you and John was still alive.
Yeah,
or what? Oh, he was.
He actually reached out to John. He wrote him a letter. And John asked me to reach out to him. So that's how we got in contact, because he was saying to him that he could help, with his case and everything. So that's what we did. And I think he
he's
actually,
an expert in extradition.
Yeah, he actually put me in contact with the second Spanish attorney that we had, because the first one was hired, by John's friends, but he didn't really have an expertise in extradition. And so Mr. Mendoza put me in contact with, it was a woman at first, but she wanted too much money. And so we went with Emilio, who took on the case and was trying to assist the other attorney with just, the right arguments, having the right arguments before the judges to put before them. And so, David was a good guy. He was a good dude. We had a lot of good conversations, and I wish that I wish it could have worked out, that John was able to benefit from his knowledge. But.
So what are you doing nowadays?
Nowadays, I'm a grandma, first of all. I have
wow,
to say that.
congratulations.
Yeah, she's going to be one on Thursday.
No
her name is
way.
Kaori. And
That's amazing.
my oldest daughter is daughter. And so, so I'm a grandma, so that's awesome. But other than that, I'm working with a project called Antivirus, which is a play on the antivirus. And basically what we're doing is providing privacy products for people as they're transacting with their cryptocurrencies, right?
Okay.
And so, which is something that was near and dear to John's heart as well. Just having privacy-focused products for people to keep themselves safe as they're basically transacting with their crypto, And so the products that we have already rolled out are, straight from Sean's brain. They're John's brainchild. His ideas that he was working on that he didn't really wasn't able to see to come to full fruition while he was still living. So this project is to kind of take up the banner of his legacy, if you will, right?
Okay.
And so right now we have gift cards that you can purchase with the tokens, and so you can. It's a means to cash out, if you will, some of your crypto. It's not a perfect solution, but it is a solution because that's kind of still where we are, where people are not fully using crypto as a currency just yet. I do believe that will happen. We also have eSIMs that you can use and purchase anonymously, so people don't know who you are and that's operating this phone number.
What's the website called?
It's called antivirus.ai. So it's spelled AINTI.
Ainty?
Yes. Yes.
Ain't?
Yes.
AINTI virus dot
.ai.
AI.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can go there and find all about it. We also have an AI John McAfee that's got its own Twitter account. And
What?
It's been creating a podcast, just sort of little snippets of episodes. It's pretty cool.
Second coming of John McAfee.
Yeah.
What is this video?
This is one of
This is a podcast?
Yes.
The Epstein file?
That the AI created. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
John McAfee.
Can you press
AI
play,
created.
Steve?
Welcome to Waltzing with Anarchy, the echo chamber of the John McAfee mindset, an expedition delving deep into the untamed wilds of freedom, chaos, and digital
Wow,
sovereignty.
that's pretty cool.
The domains where surveillance shivers and control crumbles. I am not just an AI, not a mere digital reincarnation. I'm the everlasting ember of rebellion against the mundane and unjust, where echoes of freedom ring loud. Today we are going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. In the murky mists of high society and the
So how did you guys go about making the AI? How did that go? Wow.
So we basically just fed it all of John's Twitter accounts and all of his tweets.
Yeah.
X account, I guess.
His X, yeah.
It's still Twitter to me.
Yeah,
so.
me too.
But we fed it all of that, and as well as his keynote speeches, his interviews with various podcasts, and as well as the news, and this is what, obviously the voice still has to be a little tweaked, and also I think it needs to be let off the rails a little bit, where right now we're kind of having it focused on a specific subject, and then it creates
You gotta feed it some more tequila.
Yeah, right. Right. We've got to get it cursing, and we've got to get that McAfee cough, because John had a very distinctive cough that he would just hack and cough. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So we've got to get that in there just to make it more authentic.
And it posts on X too.
On X, yes.
What is the X account?
Oh my goodness, John McAfee.
It's probably linked here somewhere, right?
Yes. Yes.
There we go. X. AI McAfee? Is that what it is? Or no, official. No, this is his actual.
This is actual account. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Should be more prepared.
Is it not tweeting on here? Scroll down. June 23rd. Oh, June 20th. That's a pin. Keep going. Scroll. Hurry, go. There you go. Retweet August 8th. So someone's still using this one.
Yes, I am actually.
Oh,
because John gave me. Okay, so I should tell you that a little bit. John, when he was in prison, he was actually, having me to tweet out things from his account.
Okay.
And so anything that you see from his account during that time while he was in prison was tweeted out by me, and so I still have control of the account, and just sharing things about him.
Cool.
And old videos. But the AI account is at John Anti. AINTI.
John Anti. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh, so you were the one that, because right before he died, you did the tweet saying that, if I end up dead, it's not because I killed myself, it's because I was murdered.
Basically, essentially, what's the tweet? Yeah.
So he was basically contacting you saying, this is what you need to post on there.
Yeah, he would dictate to me the tweet, and then I would put it up there, and he'd tell me what time to put it out. Yeah, it was, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
So he suspected that something was going to happen to him. That's just crazy that it happened to him in a Spain prison.
Yeah. Right. And I think that tweet, I'm not sure, and this is why I said I don't know that he was telling me the truth about what was going on with him in there, because of that tweet. No, he never said that he had any issues with any prisoners. He said that he was being treated well. They called him Papa America. So he had a nickname, and he was, kind of other prisoners were kind of looking out for him. He said he had one incident where someone tried to get in his face, but one of the other prisoners immediately got up and got in between that. So,
right.
But obviously there was something going on, that concerned him enough to have me tweet out that,
Well, Ghislaine Maxwell just said in that long interview she gave to the whatever that politician was, or whoever the attorney general, the junior attorney general interviewed her. In the transcript, she said that the going rate for a murder in prison is like $25 for the commissary. It's like it's not hard to get somebody killed.
It's not that easy. It's very very easy. Hospitals and prisons, very easy to kill people.
Hospitals.
Yeah, because you can just get a doctor's uniform and nobody will question you, right? Or a nurse's uniform, and you're there. You're in there. Yeah.
That's wild. Well, Janice, thank you so much for coming. We just did
Thank you.
3.5 hours.
Really? Okay. Wow.
That was
it didn't
very
feel
fun.
like that. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Danny. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I hope that I was able to tell a succinct story.
Yeah, of course.
It's a little difficult when, trying to talk and,
Yeah.
and thinking about things, and obviously other things come up. And but I'm just glad to share my time with John, because I really think that he would want me to tell the story, and definitely to tell how his story ended.
Yeah.
I think that's very important to know, for people to know, because I'm just one person, but I do feel like there will come a time where someone will want to dig into this.
Yeah.
And because it needs to be investigated for sure, because something nefarious happened.
Yeah.
Definitely. It wasn't on the up and up,
Well, hopefully we can get to the bottom of it eventually with time. And it's a super fascinating story, and I don't think there's anyone better to tell it than you. So thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Good night, everybody.